attending the Research Advisory Council. We're so happy that after many years, we're able to have RAC again, and happy that you all could make it. Happy that we have a quorum. So everything is working out well. My name is Angelita Bullets. I go by Angie. My last name is Bullets, like they come out of a gun. I am your designated federal official. This RAC includes Southern Nevada District, the Ely District, and Battle Mountain District. So we've done a little change up, I guess, in the past while. So this is a little different. I've been here on this district since August of 2020. So been here for a while, but it was during COVID. And so I've had a difficult time meeting people because a lot of meetings have been closed. So we do a lot of Teams. I did want to mention, and I heard somebody say this prior to the start of our meeting, that we did have a Federal Register notice that went out seeking nominations for our RAC membership. We had very few nominations come back. So if you are interested, your term is expiring in August, and you're still interested in being on RAC, please nominate yourself. If you have friends, associates that are interested, recruit for us, please, so we can have a quorum. Another notice will be coming out shortly about this second round. So we're anxious to have a full RAC again. Okay. As far as safety goes, in case of emergency, the closest exit is the front door. Our restrooms are right here behind us. You can go through any of the doors to get out right here in the hallway. There's also a water fountain there. If you look on the agenda, there is no break. So take a break when you need to take a break. So we won't be calling for a break at all. So just do what you need to do. At this time, I'd like to go around the room and start with John, and we'll go through introductions here, and then we'll get those RAC members that are on Zoom next.
So I'm John Hyatt. I'm glad to be here. I've served on the RAC before 1998 to 2012, and then again in 2015 and 16. I'm representing environmental issues or organizations this time. I've also represented wildlife in the past. And I'm a member of a number of conservation organizations in the state, and have been working on public land issues for 40 years.
My name is Tara Kilpatrick. My second term for Wild Horse and Burro Interest is coming to an end this month. And yes, I did reapply for a third interest.
Stretch Baker. I was right away in transportation for I think 3 terms, and then came back to disperse recreation.
Stephanie Garcia Voss. I represent transportation. This is the end of my second term, and I'll reapply if you'll have it.
Gary McEwen, elected official, Conservation District, Board of Supervisors, Conservation District in Eureka County. I work for the university, run the Great Basin trying to start a new research and extension center there, and I'm also the extension educator in Eureka.
Kimberly Reinhardt. I'm the representative for grazing and ranches. I am the environmental manager at Southern Nevada Water Authority, and we have 23,000 acres of grazing allotments in Lincoln and White Pine County.
Shenandoah Anderson, everybody calls me Shannon. I am from the Shivers Band of Paiute in St. George. I'm a Moapa Band of Paiute. I'm also their cultural manager, and I know if you have any information, anything you want to know about the Southern Paiutes, come to me, because if I don't have the answer, I'll find it.
Okay, our RAC members on Zoom.
So maybe if we could start with Robert, if you could introduce yourself, please.
All right, I'm Robert Carroll. I represent gravel pits, things of that nature. By trade, I've been involved in the heavy civil type work most of my career in the Las Vegas area. I was raised in Las Vegas, grew up there. This is my first term and actually my first meeting. So go easy on me.
Thank you, Robert. And then I believe we also, Mark, you're also on, correct?
I am. My name is Mark Duvall. This is also my first term, my first RAC meeting. I work for an electrical cooperative headquartered in Pahrump. I run the lands and GIS department over here, and excited about being on the committee or the council.
Okay, and I'd like the district managers to introduce themselves. They're both online. You want to start with Robbie?
Good afternoon, everyone. Robbie McAvoy, District Manager for the Ely District.
And Doug?
Yes, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Doug Furtado. I'm the District Manager for the Battle Mountain District. And as Angie said, I'm glad we're back in the RAC business. And I've been here as the District Manager for, since January of 2011, and before that, a field manager here in Battle Mountain since 2004. So hopefully I'll be well qualified to answer any questions and provide good insight and information for the RAC members. Thank you.
All right, let's see. And Josh, why don't you introduce yourself? Josh, Katrina, or Sheeter.
Good afternoon. I'm Josh Travers, Assistant Field Manager for the Red Rock-Sloan Field Office.
Good afternoon. I'm Katrina Williams. I'm the Field Manager for the Red Rock-Sloan Field Office.
Hello, I'm Sheeter Rakestraw, Project Manager for Red Rock-Sloan Field Office.
Okay. Kirsten, you want to introduce yourself?
I'm Kirsten Cannon. I'm the RAC Coordinator.
She's our brain here. Okay. So with that introduction, the next thing on our agenda is to elect a chair and a vice chair. And I realize we do have some people on Zoom. We have you here. Some of you have never met each other face to face, but some of you have known each other for a long time. So with that, I would like to entertain any nominations you have for a chair.
I'd like to nominate Sean. He has experience with it.
Okay, is there a second on that?
Second.
Okay. Gary?
If John's okay with that.
No. Okay. Are there any nominations? Any other? Any nominations on Zoom? RAC? Seven second rule. Okay. All those in favor of John being chair?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, there we go. One abstention. Okay, next is the vice chair. Do you have any nominations for vice chair?
I'd nominate Chair Patrick.
I'll second that.
Okay. Any other nominations for vice chair? Tara's looking at me.
My best go. But I only got 2 weeks maybe, so at this point, but yeah.
Okay. Is there, you have a second?
Yes.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. There we go. we are done with that. So, John, if you would like to carry on the rest of the agenda, or I can do that for you. Either way.
Well, I can do it, but I need a copy of the agenda. Actually,
You will, two shakes of the list.
Oh, there we go.
I've written all of them.
Yeah, so did I. So I give you mine.
That is. Oh, it's that one, that's it, it's like. That's straight. Oh, thank you for saving the day.
Okay, so the next item on our agenda is district manager reports. So Angie, would you like to lead off?
Actually, Doug would like to start. And then I can go after that. Doug already, I don't know why, but yesterday he said he wanted to go first, so I.
Okay, fine.
Well, I just thought it was the first opportunity for Angie to delegate to me, so.
Oh, there you go.
All right, so we got 15 minutes and we promised Kirsten not to go over. And so for those, I know several folks that are on the rack right now. Battle Mountain District used to participate both in the MOSO and the southern half, the Tonopah field office, and the Mount Lewis to the north was in the now defunct northern rack. And so for those that are new and unfamiliar with the district, I'll start off by just giving a quick overview of the Battle Mountain District. It's the second largest public land district in the Bureau, contains over 10.5 million acres of public land. We have 4 large rural counties that we work with: Lander County, Eureka County, Nye County, and Esmeralda. We have some of the largest programs that we manage here in the non-ONC lands in the Pacific Northwest, and excluding things like coal and helium back east. But we have the largest wild horse and burro program in the Bureau with 28 herd management areas. We have the 3rd largest billed AUM district in the Bureau for livestock grazing. We have the largest hard rock mining program in the Bureau, and with an expanding lithium component. Our renewable energy program has been expanding. Once upon a time, it was relegated to one solar project down in Tonopah and mainly geothermal exploration and development. And in a minute, I'll just get in quickly to the solar work that's before us here in 2022 and beyond. So again, lots of complexity here. And so that's sort of the background. We have 2 field offices: the Mount Lewis field office to the north, which is the north half of the district. And then the southern half is the Tonopah field office. And we have a remote office in Tonopah. We manage an air tanker base, a large air tanker base in Battle Mountain, and have a fire station in Eureka. So that basically constitutes an overview. As far as my update for today, I apologize, I didn't have a handout. I got it in a little late, so next meeting I'll make sure that that you guys all have, all the RAC members and the public have an informative document to review and take home with you. So I'm going to talk a little bit about some of our major projects, but in the district. But I want to focus my report here on the activities that are occurring around Beatty, which is obviously north of Vegas, south of Tonopah. There's a lot of interest there from members of the community, the Beatty Town Board, surrounding areas, recreation folks that use that area, plus a lot of never-ending interest from Nye and Esmeralda County on things that we're doing, not just in the counties, but in and around those areas. So around Beatty, we have a lot of activities. I said we're currently permitting 8 mining projects around there within proximity of town. 4 are exploration projects that vary in size from footprints of 3,000 to 4,000 acres within a planning boundary, and then 200 to 400 acres of actual planned disturbance. And most of those are all currently in pre-planning, pre-NEPA pre-planning. We have 25 mining notices that are occurring around the town of Beatty. Those are non-federal actions under the locatable mineral regulations that allow up to 5 acres of disturbance for exploration for each notice. And we have a number of actual mining projects that we are in the process of permitting. The largest is the North Bullfrog Gold Mine. That's going to be approximately a 4,900 acre footprint with up to 2,760 acres of actual mining disturbance and facilities. That's in pre-planning as well. The Augusta Gold Bullfrog Montgomery project is another gold mine that we're in pre-planning. That's an old barrack mining site, mining area. And that's the Bullfrog mine, planned Bullfrog mine outside of Rhyolite. And then D&H Mining, brown and gold quarries. We received that plan of operations in 2022. And it's a decorative rock operation that we're currently permitting. Recreation is a big program, not as big and large and as complex as Vegas, but we do permit and receive applications on an annual basis between 15 and 16 special recreational use permits. And around the Beatty area in particular, as the 22-year-old Vegas to Reno race. And this year it's scheduled to begin this Friday, but we're dealing with a lot of monsoon issues. And so we're working with the applicant to address those for safety and for protection of the county maintained roads. And so hopefully we'll seek resolution to some of those issues here this week. That generally draws up to 5,000 spectators and pit personnel with over 400 people that staff the event and over 120 media folks that show up to cover that. This year it's going to start in Beatty tentatively, given these monsoon and these weather issues we're dealing with. But it's currently proposed to start in Beatty and end outside of Dayton and Carson City. Then the other one that affects the Beatty area the most is the Legacy Racing that was held in June 22 through the 25th. It began in Bonnie Claire, continued to Hawthorne, past Rawhide, Gabbs, and Mina before finishing in Tonopah. So most of our SRPs are road race SRPs, but there's a lot of interest in Tonopah, in the Tonopah field office for those events. With regards to renewable energy, the Greenlink West project is currently in an EIS status, and that's a transmission corridor from the Reno area down to Vegas. And we've received in Battle Mountain thus far 21 solar applications, one of which is the Esmeralda 7. That's a unique project that's located in Esmeralda County, southwest of Tonopah. In 2021, we had 6 companies that normally operate, they operate individually, working with BLM to get permits. We were able to build a collaborative scenario there and bring them all together to identify their own distinct project boundaries, which are contiguous and they touch one another, and convince them to work together and with BLM to prepare one regional level EIS to facilitate the overall development of the renewable energy program or the projects there. When fully constructed, that's going to produce 5.3 gigawatts of power, which is going to be a large part, if not exceeding the capacity of the current proposed Greenlink West. So there's a lot of eyes on that and how those efficiencies and that collaboration is going to work as far as facilitating our renewable energy and solar portfolio in Battle Mountain. I won't go through all the different applications, but 21 of which 4 are expressions of interest. In the Beatty area, we had 2 that we rated low, and we're not going to pursue those necessarily at this time. And the Beatty Town Board, needless to say, is very happy about that. The 2 applications we received in Gold Point and Miller Says, those are going to go through competitive leasing, and those are going to be next on our priority. So As far as wind goes, we've gotten 4 applications for Met towers scattered throughout the district, predominantly in the south end. And so we're going to be very busy in Battle Mountain, working on renewable energy, as I said, predominantly with solar. The other couple of projects that I think the RAC will be interested in is the NASA withdrawal. That's garnering a lot of interest from the congressionals. NASA submitted a request for a 23,000 acre withdrawal over Railroad Valley, which is northeast of Tonopah. And they were the lead agency for the NEPA, and they have prepared an EA that has gone out for public comment. And once we resolve all the public comments and we reconcile those comments, then, which include comments from Nye County and lithium mine companies and others, the process for BLM's regulatory process for withdrawals of that size rests with the Secretary of the Interior. And therefore, at the appropriate time and after the appropriate internal briefings, the delegation of authority to either recommend or not recommend those withdrawals lies with the State Director, John Raby. And sometime here in the next couple of months, we're going to reach that decision point to decide how we want to proceed with the recommendation to the Secretary for the NASA withdrawal. Fish Lake Wild Horse and Burro Gather, we just signed a decision. That's north of Tonopah, and that is a planned gather for this fall. 250 horses removed, and that'll get us to AML there. And we're working with the Forest Service, who's also in the process of issuing a decision on their part of it for their wild horse territory. And I'm looking at my little stopwatch because I promised Kirsten not to go over 15 minutes. So drought has been something that's really been an issue for us in the district and most of Nevada for the last couple of years. For those that recall, we had a record historic drought between 2012 and through 14 that really was a challenge to manage that. Here in Battle Mountain, we developed the means of facilitating rapid drought response through a district plan that we prepared back then, and developed an EA that covers many of the drought response actions that are supported by science. And my goal is to always be able to work with the ranchers that are affected by drought, reach agreements on temporary changes in grazing to protect the resource and to help manage their operation. And back then, we issued 22 grazing decisions, 95% of which were implementing agreements with the livestock permittees. And at this point in the year, we have issued 4 decisions affecting areas over 450,000 acres of public land, all of which contain critical habitat for sage grouse, have riparian wetland resources, or in HMAs where there's conflict with horses that are over AML. And we have 2 more in the pipeline where we're actually 3 more potentially based on monitoring that we're doing in a couple of the other allotments that are getting hit hard on drought and lack of moisture and production. So as far as the bigger projects go, not necessarily in and around Tonopah, we have just published in the Federal Register a notice of availability for the Gibellini vanadium mine. That's located in south of Eureka. And the great thing about that project is it's one of many that has implemented an approach Battle Mountain developed for expediting applications and the NEPA process. And in this case, we did a lot of the pre-planning. It's again a vanadium mine. It's going to be up to 7 years of operation, 4 years of reclamation and closure, and 30 years of post-monitoring. It's the first mine in the whole country that is powered entirely by renewable energy. And I'm excited to see how that's going to work. All of their haul rigs, the energy to power the mines coming from a solar field that they're going to build there. And so it's going to be basically a zero emission mining operation. And vanadium's used to develop batteries and hardened steel, and it's a critical mineral. It's on the nation's critical mineral list. We expect a record of decision in 2023, early. And then the next one is the Gold Rush gold mine, which is an amendment to a series of Cortez Mining District mines that Nevada Gold Mines operates. That's south of Crescent Valley. Together, it's the largest gold mining operation in the world, to my knowledge, unless something's changed that I'm unfamiliar with. This will be an underground mine, largely to, pardon me?
1 minute warning.
I didn't hear, I'm sorry.
1 minute warning, so prioritize the rest of your topics.
Yep, and this is the last one. And so this is an underground mine, working with the mines to develop the underground component to this. It's largely to avoid Native American properties of religious and importance, properties of cultural and religious importance that were established during previous mining operations to protect the surface resources there. And so that again is published in the Federal Register, the NOA, Friday, June 30th. So we're still in the comment period for both. So unless there's any questions from the RAC members, that concludes my update.
And right on time. Well played, sir.
I have a question.
John has a question for you.
When you referred to the Fish Lake Horse Gather, AML, was that high AML, low AML, or something in between?
Normally, I don't go to a meeting without having my updated AML population numbers and estimates, but I think that we're going to be removing 250 and the low AML is 350-ish. So it'll be the low AML.
Thank you.
Good.
And welcome to all the new RAC members. I look forward to meeting you.
I have another question, if I could, Doug. Gary McEwen.
Gary.
How are you sitting on your range cons? Are you well-staffed or are you short?
Well, I'll answer that indirectly and then directly. Indirectly, this district alone has 108 applicant-driven applications, projects across all the programs I mentioned earlier, and they're all active at either the EA or EIS level. That's way more work than I have the staff for. Right now, a range management specialist is a limiting factor for not just managing our range lands and working with the permittees, but we really had to tighten up our priorities. We have a total of 4 range staff in Mount Lewis and 3 in Tonopah, and we currently have 1 position filled in Mount Lewis and 1 position in Tonopah. So if you can imagine, those two individuals are on every single one of these ID teams for geothermal, for solar, for mining. And so we've been trying to, and this is a problem statewide. There's a statewide announcement out and with incentives, but it's, as you know, Gary, the requirements to qualify as a rangeland management specialist, you have to meet a lot of specific educational requirements, and it's becoming harder and harder to find people that are graduating from college with those requirements, and that's our biggest problem.
Thank you.
You want a job?
You asked me that question? You're serious?
Absolutely.
No, thank you. I got 2 already that I can't complete.
Gary and I have known each other for a long time.
Well, as Doug said, that it is a statewide issue, and so.
Nationwide issue.
Yeah, probably. At this time, our state office is trying to work with the districts to come up with a strategy on how to hire. So several of us are putting our knowledge and experience forward to try and get those positions filled.
Are you working closely with Society for Range Management?
We go to the meetings to recruit and hire. Some of the strategy I think we're going to use, because range, you can't go to any university to get a range degree, right?
Actually, UNR has a range degree at this point in time, yes.
Yeah, but not every university.
Oh, yeah,
has.
yeah.
So that's one of the strategies is to try to bring on interns, not just graduates. So hopefully things will be different.
Support range camp. We're trying to produce them.
So in similar situations, it's much easier to recruit students and young people than it is people who are fully qualified to do it. And then if you can train those people and you know if they're any good, because you train them, they'll stick around and you can actually hire them. So I would certainly strongly recommend you look at setting up a training program.
Yeah,
And-
that's one of the strategies that we're trying, I think we're gonna try. Like I said, they're just starting to work on a plan.
Reinstitute the mentoring program that used to be in BLM years ago as well.
We used to have step and skip. I won't drag this on, but we used to have a step and skip program, which are temporary hirings for students. And that was great, but that went away. That program went away. And we have something called Pathways, which is much more difficult to bring.
Hey, Gary, so we do have, on a positive note, we do have a range lead for the district. And that would be Sam Alt, and that position is critical for making the program move forward successfully. So that position is filled as well.
Very familiar with Sam, get along with him well.
I saw your.
Yes, two things. One, just to follow up on that conversation. And another thing is if it's hard to find the range cons, is if there's any ability to fill some other positions that people can take some of the tasks away from the range cons, like help out more with the NEPA work in order to complete the projects. And then so the range cons work is a little bit more narrow and they can just provide the expertise for the NEPA specialist. That would be one other approach. But then the second thing I was going to ask was, you mentioned a drought plan from a few years ago that you issued several permits under, but I didn't quite understand how that related to the permits that you were issuing this year. Do you mind expanding on that?
Yeah, sure. So the drought EA, which is the famous or infamous, depending on who you ask, the intent of that was to define drought, identify indices that measure drought, include wild horse and burro body condition and availability of forage and water to support emergency horse gatherers, and then establish some monitoring thresholds to say, wait, we're in drought, that box is checked, we've done our monitoring, we are exceeding what we call drought response triggers for vegetation and for upland and riparian vegetation. And when we get close to meeting those, that's what triggers our conversation with the permittees. And where we have those issues going on in any allotment, our goal is to be able to say, okay, what within season modifications can we make to move your cows from point A to point B? And then once we get that lined out, like I said, 95% agreements is what our track record is here. The other 5% wasn't such an agreement because it ended up in some litigation and appeals with some folks, but they didn't want to work with us. So we had no choice. But at the end of the day, the drought EA, the proposed action and alternatives, lists out all of the science-based grazing responses that would be available on a allotment specific basis. And so instead of preparing a separate EA, going through a separate process, we can prepare what we call a determination of NEPA adequacy based upon the utilizing the monitoring data as the rationale. And the regs allow us to implement that agreement in a decision that's effective upon issuance or the date specified, which means we don't have to go through a lengthy protest and appeal period. And so that's it in a nutshell. Back in the old days before that, by the time you got around to monitoring an allotment, when you have all these acres and all these allotments in these big districts, you put together the data, you spend 2 or 3 months writing an EA and then going out for public comments and getting a bunch of public comments and then issuing a decision. And by the time the decision was in effect, all the cows are home eating hay in the wintertime. And so this gave us the opportunity to expedite the drought response to benefit everybody.
Are the ranchers allowed to do the drought monitoring?
Yeah, we encourage that. Matter of fact, we were just out on the Fellini with the Fellinis on the Reveille allotment last week, doing the drought monitoring with them. You know, we encourage a lot of that. And then we always encourage cooperative monitoring agreements, which has been a long-standing topic with the RACs, but very few permittees, you know, actually want to enter into agreements, even though we have open arms. You know, anybody that wants to enter into a cooperative monitoring agreement, we more than are willing to support that.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions? If not, thank you very much. You want to go ahead?
Yes,
next? Okay.
I'll go ahead next. Okay, since Doug started out with that overview, I wanted to explain the Southern Nevada District and what's included in there for anyone who's new. The Southern Nevada District has the Las Vegas Field Office, the Pahrump Field Office, and the Red Rock Sloan Field Office. It also has the Gold Butte National Monument, the Red Rock National Conservation Area, and Sloan National Conservation Area. It's approximately 3 million acres, all of course in Southern Nevada. Like Doug, we have the Bureau's largest law enforcement program, fuels program, lands program. We have the largest renewable. We have the most visited NCA and national monument in the system, which is Red Rock. Always busy. We have many, about 250 dedicated employees that work here and at Red Rock. And so this office is extremely busy. Our district has, during COVID, the front desk was closed during COVID. It was tough getting people to have appointments to come into the office to do research, say for land or whatever. We've now opened up, but we've changed our hours. We were traditionally open from 8 to 4:30. Now we're open from 8 to 4, and that's to give our employees that 30 minutes that are in the front to get ready for the next day, because we have constant visitation for our lands. But that recently did change. Like I said, our renewable energy program is very large. We have a whole division called the Energy and Infrastructure team that takes care of that. They have many resource specialists there. They have 3 project managers and several other staff plans, just various different staff members. We do have a work plan that takes us into our renewable energy work to 2025. That work plan will have us providing 25% of the national goal, the administration's goal for renewable energy, which is 25 gigawatts. So it's major.
So 5 gigawatts here in this district, is that what you're saying?
25. Oh, the national goal is 25 gigawatts.
Right, so
we are at 6,000 megawatts, which is 6 gigawatts. So large program. We have 30 pending applications for utility scale renewable energy development, and that was as of August the 9th. In Pahrump Valley, we have 5 applications. Amargosa Valley, we have 13 applications, which is becoming a very popular area in Amargosa Valley. Indian Springs, we have 3 applications. Jean, we have 1. Laughlin, we have 2. Apex area, we have 2. In the vicinity of the Mojave Reservation, we have 3 applications. And El Dorado Valley, we have 1. Those are the 30 pending applications. We also have 3 pending applications for wind energy, testing and monitoring. But those are not included in our program of work because we are concentrating on solar. We have construction that's active right now. We have the Yellow Pine Solar, which is in the Pahrump Valley area, the Gemini Solar, and Dry Lake Solar. And then we also support solar development on the Mojave Reservation as far as Gentile lines and other supporting infrastructure for the tribe's projects. We have also the Southern Bighorn Solar, Chuckwalla, and the, it's hard for me to say that in English the way they say it. I'm sorry. Yadump Solar. That's under the draft EIS is under development. In the Las Vegas field office, is in the process of developing planning documents for some of our most special areas. The offices is working to formally designate Logandale Trails, one of Clark County's most popular areas for off-highway vehicle recreation, and as a special recreation management area. This month we'll be releasing the draft Logandale Trails Resource Management Amendment, Environmental Assessment, Recreation Area Management Plan, and Travel Management for public review. This plan will allow us to protect this area into the future for recreation and manage the resources in the best way possible. The Las Vegas Field Office is also preparing to initiate scoping for the Gold Butte National Monument Implementation Plan, which probably for many of you remember that's been a long time coming. Las Vegas Field Office held a series of public and tribal input periods on helping to develop a plan for activities in the National Monument. This month, we're going to be presenting a plan to the public and begin the evaluation under the National Environmental Policy Act. This is going to help guide activities in the National Monument. Finally, the Las Vegas Field Office is finalizing the management plan for the Paiute El Dorado ACEC, which is area of critical environmental concern. The ACEC management plan was funded by the offsite mitigation fees collected from the solar development in the Dry Lake Solar Energy Zone. This plan will help restore restoration of the ACEC, which contains critical habitat for the threatened desert tortoise. Hopefully you've all heard of our Southern Nevada Public Land Management Act. The Las Vegas Field Office sold 376.465 acres in 32 parcels in a 24-hour period for $138,575,000 during the modified competitive online sale. These parcels were offered for sale and they varied in size from 2.03 acres to 50.84 acres and were located throughout the Las Vegas Valley. The parcels offered for sale were nominated by local governments, often after interested parties expressed interest in purchasing them in accordance with SNPLMA. The funds generated from the public sale will be used for specific purposes, including parks, trails, and natural areas, capital improvements, conservation initiatives, and for the purchase of environmentally sensitive lands. Additionally, those dollars that we generated, 10% of those go into the Southern Nevada Water Authority and 5% goes to the Nevada State General Education Fund. As far as affordable housing, the Las Vegas Field Office, after many years, is working to complete a new affordable housing project. The project known as the Pebble and Eastern Senior Apartment Project was proposed by Clark County Department of Social Service. And the Las Vegas Field Office has been working with Clark County and the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development to bring this project to completion. And like I said, that has taken many years, and primarily the reason is because we do not have expertise in housing. It's HUD that has the expertise. Unfortunately, they're one person in Southern Nevada or in Nevada retired,
Mhm.
which caused us to have a lot of delay because that one expert was no longer there. So, but that's up and running now, and so we are working on that project. As far as Pahrump Field Office goes, on May 10th, 2022, the Southern Nevada District Office issued a decision and final herd management area plan for the Spring Mountain Wild Horse and Burro Complex. The 10-year wild horse and burro herd management area plan will occur in the Spring Mountain Wild Horse and Burro joint management areas located in Clark and 9 counties. The decision is to gather and remove excess wild horses and burros from within and outside the Wheeler Pass, Johnny and Red Rock joint management areas and Spring Mountain Wild Horse and Burro territory to achieve the established appropriate management level of 63 to 99 wild horses and 103 to 192 wild burros. The BLM plans to implement a range of fertility controls to maintain the population within appropriate management level over a period of up to 10 years. So we work jointly with the Forest Service to get that EA out. Let's see, in Red Rock Sloan, Sloan Canyon National Conservation Area has received and secured funding from SNPLMA round 18 at $19,834,000 for the design and construction of the visitor contact station at Sloan Canyon National Conservation Area. The BLM is waiting for completion of a sewer design and will then go into the bid and construction process. So we're getting close there. We're all excited about that. Because if you go to Sloan, you look at how the city is moving very, very near Sloan. So this is going to be very exciting for us. Sloan is collaborating with 12 different tribes to work on the Sloan Canyon interpretive plan for long-term interpretive and education planning and programming for Sloan and the future visitor contact station. Currently, there's a temporary trailer there at Sloan Canyon to serve as the visitor center until construction is completed. The hours for that are 7 days a week from 6 to 4. Red Rock Canyon National Conservation Area. In April, BLM Red Rock Canyon Park Rangers worked with Friends of the Red Rock Canyon Southern Nevada Climbing Coalition and local media to remove graffiti from Ash Creek Spring in the Calico Basin area. The BLM Red Rock Canyon had a fee-free day on August the 4th for the anniversary of the Great American Outdoors. And we'll host another one in September 24th for National Public Lands Day. The BLM Legacy Trail Multi-Use Trail Segment 1, which is funded by Federal Highways Federal Land Access Program, is slated to start construction in the summer of 23. The trail goes from Summerlin in that West Charleston area to the Red Rock Visitor Center. So also a big project we're very excited about. The BLM Red Rock Canyon Park Rangers are currently working on the restoration of trails and post-fire recovery of vegetation and other resources for areas outlined in the Harris Springs Recreation Area Management Plan for the north side of the Red Rock Canyon National Conservation Area, which is near Kyle Head. And that's it for us. I don't know about my time.
3 minutes ahead.
Woo!
Not to throw it down, Doug, but.
I just had a question on the numbers on the borough. I didn't catch what the numbers were on.
The numbers for the wild horse, and this is where we want to be, the appropriate management level, so we call it AML. The AML for wild horses is 63 to 99, and for wild burros it's 103 to 192.
And where are you gathering to? The low end or the high end?
Probably high end.
So you're behind.
Oh, yeah. Well, we've been trying to we've been trying to work cooperatively with Forest Service for the EA for a long time. Decade, maybe 12 years.
So you can fly when you're gathering, you can fly into the forest if they go up or vice versa.
Yeah. And that's what we're doing now. Right now, even before the EA, we were jointly working with them. So our range person, Wild Horse and Burro specialist, was going to into Spring Mountain and helping them. This part of their forest, the Humboldt Toyabe, has also a critical need for range. So they don't have anyone. So Tabby was actually working on theirs too.
And I just have one question. Do you have any grazing allotments in this district?
We have.
You did not
We
too
had-
long ago.
Yeah, we had one that was in
Hidden
that
Valley.
Searchlight area.
You have Hidden Valley.
And then we have one, we still currently have the one, but it's very few numbers and he doesn't really put any livestock on there anymore. So we have a very, very tiny range program.
I was curious if there were any.
Yeah. We don't have much.
And then there are feral cattle.
Yes.
That go,
Mhm.
which is a lot of cows, actually.
We did a aerial survey, and it was actually for wild horses and burros in that area as they go into that Lake Mead area. So we did a count then, and the aerial survey, we're still waiting for the numbers. So it did catch those two, what you're talking about.
So then the last numbers I heard for wild burros and gold, it was 650. Which would probably be a couple of years ago. That's a lot of burros.
It is, but they did do a gather in that Lake Mead area, so they may have moved down that way towards the water. So I know they did a gather there recently. But I don't know what the numbers are.
I need these to Angie. The Sloan Visitor Center, Visitor Contact Station Visitor Center. Is there a time frame? I heard you say earmarked.
They could
resources.
probably tell you the time frame. I'll just say it's pretty accelerated and aggressive time schedule, which is good because Sloan really needs that.
No, we don't know what the timeframe is going to be. We're trying to finish the design for the sewer. So just depending on when the contractor gets settled, we would have a better idea. And we're hoping to start engaging with City of Henderson again and start figuring out those timelines, because we know some good things are going to be coming up and we're going to be connecting with the future park that's going to be down there. So there's going to be some good conversations going on. So we're hoping, sometime maybe, FY23. Yeah.
The other thing is SNPLMA has a deadline, so we have to work within those deadlines. You really can't ask for extensions. So we're gonna have to work on it aggressively.
To make sure to spend that money.
Yeah, the other thing is that the city of Henderson is creating a park to complement the visitor contact station. So they're also working with the city of Henderson for that. So that's a nice thing, and it'll just complement. Yeah.
Yeah, help us with parking.
Yeah.
A question about Sloan Canyon. At the time that was designated, there was an endowment set up from sale of land there to Del Webb. And that endowment was basically intended to provide funds for management of the Sloan Canyon NCA. And there was a big reluctance to build a visitor center, do anything to use up a large amount of that endowment on a one-time project. My question is, what is the present status with funding for the Sloan Canyon NCA? Because with the fall in interest rates, that endowment wasn't generating much of anything. So could you just comment on that?
So we've been using the funding to continue planning for the future of Sloan. And so we're just making sure that we're we're using the funds wisely so that we're not depleting the funds, and the funds are not going to last forever. And so that's why we've made sure that we're looking at other funding sources, that we just didn't rely on that pocket of money for building the visitor contact station. So we're also planning for other ways of how we're going to have funding in the future, long-term funding to continue managing Sloan. So we have additional staffing that we've secured with some of the funding. And we've got staff that is is at the trailer right now. So that's what we've used for the funding since then. I'm not sure of the dollar amount right now, but we are making sure that we're preparing to be self-sufficient in the future and not relying on the source of funding that's available. But I don't have the dollar amount right now.
So you're basically saying you're not going to be relying on appropriated dollars. You're going to be basically relying on fees to fund that?
Well, we would make sure that we look at all sorts of funding, all sources of funding. It could be appropriated funded, it could be different pots of funding. National Lands Conservation funding that's out there as well. And we could look at fees as well in the future.
Other questions for?
Doug has a question.
Yeah, it's not a question. It's just based on the Wild Horse and Burro conversation, we all maintain our population estimates by HMA. And if any of the RAC members would be interested in getting a copy of a map of all of our HMAs and our information, our population numbers, we'd be happy to provide that.
Please do.
Yes, yes.
How do we get that?
I'll send it to Kirsten, speaking from Battle Mountain, the managers can get it to Kirsten and she can distribute it.
Thank you. So if no more, that brings us to Robbie.
All right. So I'll just give a little bit of information about myself before I get started here. For those who don't know me, I started my public lands management career about 30 years ago now. I've had experience with 2 separate agencies, Forest Service in Utah, where I began my career, and now with BLM. I have experience as a rec tech, a planner, monument manager, and associate district manager before landing in this current position. The Ely District encompasses 12 million acres in eastern Nevada and White Pine County, Lincoln County, and a small portion of Nye County. We consist of the Bristlecone Field Office, the Caliente Field Office, and the Basin and Range National Monument. So much like Doug and Angie, I'll give a quick overview of some of the projects and activities that have occurred on our district over the past year. And I'll start with energy developments. Over the past few years, interest in energy developments on the Ely District has increased. We currently have several large-scale multi-state projects at various stages in the National Environmental Policy Act process. And I'll talk a little bit about the Trans-Canyon Cross-Tie project. This is an overhead 500 kV line that crosses multiple BLM jurisdictions and National Forest System lands, as it starts at the Clover substation in Mona, Utah, and ends at the Robinson substation here in Ely. The Utah BLM Fillmore Field Office is serving as project lead. This line is approximately 214 miles long, of which about 64 miles is on our district. This transmission line is proposed to be located primarily within existing utility corridors. The driver behind this project is to strengthen the interconnection between Pacific Core and NV Energy's transmission systems while supporting interregional power transfers. Doing so furthers the administration's priorities by facilitating access between renewable sources of energy, primarily wind or solar in Utah and eastern Nevada. The notice of intent for this project was published in the Federal Register this past April, and the record of decision is scheduled to be signed in April of 2024. So the next project is the Trans-West Express. The TWE project extends across 4 states from South Central Wyoming to Southern Nevada. The TWE project includes approximately 732 miles of high voltage transmission lines, 2 terminals located in Wyoming and Utah, and 2 substations located in Utah and Nevada. The system will be capable of transmitting 3,000 megawatts of electric energy and will facilitate the installation and transmission of up to 4,000 megawatts of renewable energy. So this project has been approved, and the record of decision was signed in December of 2016, and a right-of-way grant was issued in June of 2017. Since then, Trans-West has been working on completing requirements for issuance of the notice to proceed. With this project, we've spent quite a bit of time recently determining the cost of voluntary mitigation for disturbing lands with wilderness characteristics. And if I'm recalling correctly, the agencies involved settled on a cost per acre, and that was presented to the proponents this past June. There are 2 other major transmission lines, SWIP North and Greenlink North, that the Ely District is involved with. The Elko District Office is lead on SWIP North, and the Nevada State Office is lead on Greenlink North. A component of the Greenlink North includes expansion of the Robinson substation to accommodate all of these energy developments. But I have to say the most notable energy project on our district would have to be the White Pine Pump Storage Project. This is a closed-loop hydropower facility located 7 miles northeast of Ely. This proposal is the first of its kind in nearly 30 years. The license application is being processed by FERC, the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission, and we have cooperating agency status. The project consists of 2 reservoirs at different elevations that has the potential to generate 1,000 megawatts of energy per hour for up to 8 hours when in use. Power is generated when water from the upper reservoir is released and travels through a 20-foot diameter tunnel passing through an underground turbine. The water is then captured and stored in the lower reservoir before being pumped back up to the upper reservoir. To generate this amount of power, both reservoirs will need to have the capacity to hold 5,000 acre-feet of water. Loss through evaporation is anticipated to be around 600 acre-feet annually. 4 production wells will be required for the initial fill, which will take about a year to a year and a half, and then 1 well will be required for continued operation. The EIS is scheduled for completion in 2024. Construction proposed to start in 2025, and the system is proposed to be operational by 2030. Along the lines of energy development, we've received about 12 applications for various wind and solar projects. We've worked closely with the proponents to modify the location or the proposal from being developmental to testing to be consistent with sage-grouse requirements. So fire and aviation. One of the many responsibilities of our Division of Fire and Aviation is to plan for and implement fuel reduction activities and habitat restoration projects. These landscape scale fuel reduction projects restore watershed health and improve wildlife habitat while reducing catastrophic wildfire risk. Treatment methods typically include hand thinning, chaining, mastication, and prescribed fire use, followed by aerial and/or ground seeding. The district often partners with other agencies, tribes, and private landowners. So a few highlights from our fuels management program are, we finished masticating established pinyon juniper on 550 acres of public lands in the Johnson Spring Basin, which is about 65 miles northwest of Ely. The acreage was aerially seeded in January. The treatment is a part of the multi-year Egan and Johnson Basin Restoration Project that will ultimately treat over 24,000 acres of an almost 85,000 acre project area. And we also finished the second mastication project on 433 acres of land in the Kern Mountain Range. Last year, we completed nearly 37,000 acres of fuel reduction projects and expect to do more this year. And much like last year, our suppression efforts have been very successful. We've had 2 large fires, both less than 6,000 acres. The Becky Peak fire in the Shell Range was 5,989 acres, and the Dodge Springs fire was just over 6,500 acres in Lincoln and Washington County, Utah, near the Docks Pass wilderness area. So we'll switch over to mining. On March 31st, the Bristlecone Field Office published a notice of intent in the Federal Register for a proposal to expand the Ball Mountain Mine North Operations Area located about 60 miles northwest of Ely. The proposal would result in an increase of approximately 4,000 acres of surface disturbance in the project within the project boundary and extend the mine life by 11 years. We're also supporting oil and gas exploration activities and recently issued a decision to Geyser Petroleum to conduct exploratory drilling in Pipeline Canyon. So rangeland management, that's another large program on our district. I think our longest running TPR process has to be the Wilson Creek term permit renewal. After several decades in the making, we issued 10 final grazing decisions, 9 to permittees and 1 for the dry lake use area in December of 2020. And before we could celebrate, all 10 of those decisions received petitions for stay, of which 2 were granted. The Caliente Field Office in September of 21 issued grazing permits in accordance with the final decisions to all other permittees. The Bristlecone Field Office and the Basin and Range National Monument are preparing a term permit renewal for John Uhalde's outcome-based grazing allotments. Land health assessments are currently under review with John Uhalde and Company, and standards determination documents for the outcome-based grazing project are scheduled to be completed this summer. So we'll talk wild horse and horse gatherers. The Bristlecone Field Office and the Weld Field Office are currently gathering the Triple B complex. The plan is to remove 1,900 excess horses from within and outside of the Triple B complex. And because John asked, I did look up the numbers. Even with the removal of that 1,900 horses that we're currently conducting with this gather operation, we're still going to be more than double of high AML. Tribal relations. We have been focused on strengthening our relationships with the Duckwater, Ely Shoshone, and the Confederated Tribes of the Ghost Root Reservation. In one area in particular, we have shown continued support for the tribe's effort to elevate the Basawabi TCP from state level of significance to a national level of significance. And more recently, we've been working cooperatively with the tribe as they develop a proposal for the Basawabi National Monument. And the last item I wanted to touch on real quickly was just special legislation. So LCAI, the Lincoln County Archaeological Initiative, around 13 projects were just approved. There were 7 projects totaling $1.7 million. And we are in the process of updating our business plan. Our special legislation program manager position has been vacant for over a year, and we're in the process of getting that filled now. I think those were the highlights for this year for Ely. Are there any questions?
Yeah, I have a question. It's not necessarily for you, but all district managers. Where is the BLM Wild Horse and Burro program in off-range holding? Facilities numbers, are the pipeline pretty well filled up? Have you been successful in getting new off-range pastures, et cetera, in the Midwest?
I don't have those numbers handy. I'll ask Doug if you have that information, Doug. And I know they are in the process of building a facility in Winnemucca.
Yeah.
And I know we did remove some horses. It was less than 10 recently, and they went to Ridgecrest. So there wasn't a concern there.
Yeah, but 10's not very many horses when
No.
you're 19.
We're doing 1900.
Yeah,
No.
and that's
That's
because
all I know.
I know that gathers have been restricted somewhat because of lack of off-range capacity.
Well, they're gathering now in Gerlach.
Well, yeah,
I don't
there's,
think they've been really restricted. It seems like we focused on increasing our gathers here recently. Because this is our second one this year and we've done large numbers on both of them.
so then the Midwest contracts for pasture have probably gone through.
I'm not sure. Doug, did you have any updated information on the pasture numbers? I'm putting you on the spot since I don't have that info handy.
No, the last I heard that there was some solicitations that went out. Winnemucca was one of them. And, but I can follow up with Alan Shepard. He's in a meeting right now and get that for you.
Thank you.
So as you know, it's always a limiting factor for, you know, the national gather priorities and the gather schedule. That's always been a limiting factor.
Robbie, this is Kimberly Reinhardt. I was wondering if your office is having any special precautions for drought conditions?
Yeah, we are being responsive to our current drought situation. Our range management specialists are working very closely with the permittees and coming to agreement on non-use or taking cattle or off early if needed in those areas. I think we had some late turnout in response to drought as well.
Okay, and then the second question, there was notification that NEPA needed to be completed for trailing permits now. Is that being notified to all permittees in advance? Because when it's last minute, then there's not time to do that. Do you know if that's a general broadcast that's going out to folks?
I'd have to double check with the field managers to make sure that we are providing a consistent message when it comes to when NEPA is needed for trailing.
Okay,
But I believe in the area that you are referencing, it's tied to a situation that we've been managing.
Okay.
I don't want to say too much, but
okay,
I think you know the situation.
I don't totally, but yeah, but just so there's clear information going out to all the permittees, that would be super.
Yes, no, I agree with you on that. And I'll pass that on to the field managers to make sure that that consistent message is being communicated to the permittees.
Sure. Thank you.
Could you just briefly explain what outcomes related grazing means?
So outcome-based grazing, I don't know what the all the details for the Uvalde's outcome-based grazing project are just right offhand, but we determine what we want the outcome to be and manage the grazing to achieve that outcome. I don't know if that really helped clarify that.
I think, I don't remember whether there was 7 or 11 projects in Nevada. How many of them are still active?
I believe they all are. I haven't heard. I'm going to call on Doug and maybe Sam too, since I see that he's on and he's one of the RMSs. I haven't been tracking the other projects on the across the state. Doug, do you have any information on that? I know you've been more involved in some of that longer than I have.
Yeah, so of all those projects, the Wine Cup Gamble in Elko, that one was also enjoined by an administrative law judge when that decision was issued. And then I believe all the rest of them in Nevada, except for Battle Mountains, our Willow Creek Ranch allotment over in Eureka County, the permittee Russ Fitzwater about a year or so ago, asked to be removed from that voluntarily because he thought there was a better means of getting the flexibility that the program is intended to provide permittees. And he thought working with us, we could get something done faster, which we're doing. But the rest of them are still in progress.
Thank you.
Sorry.
So no more questions about district manager reports. Will go to renewable energy. And I guess Greg Helseth, the man to lead that. Greg, you there?
Greg, if you could please unmute yourself and start your presentation.
Okay, I think I got unmuted.
Good, we can hear you.
Okay, I apologize. I was on leave today, but I am a subject matter expert on renewable energy. My name is Greg Helseth. I'm a branch chief from the state office. I was also instrumental in a lot of things in Southern Nevada when I was there on renewable energy projects. So I've been at it for about 14 years. So I'm well suited to answer any questions you may have. So as far as renewable energy goes, we have an IM out that's 2022-027 that talks about prioritization for renewable energy. So Battle Mountain District, Doug's district has done prioritization, and other districts are following. And we have projects like in Southern Nevada, they have about 30 projects. Doug's team there has about 15. Carson has roughly about 6. And then there's other small projects around the state. However, that instruction memorandum allows us to prioritize correctly based on resources and where the project is located in a proper manner as to which projects should be moved forward. Of course, we still have to do a variance process with some public meetings and stuff like that before we actually get into NEPA or front loading NEPA and then doing an EIS on these projects. So Nevada is looking at there's a congressional act from 2020, the Solar Energy Act, and it was asking for 25 gigawatts of power by 2025. Nevada, all on its own, is looking at producing about 16 of those gigawatts before 2025. So Nevada is absolutely critical to the production of renewable energy to meet congressional goals. We're also working on some major infrastructure transmission lines. I have both of those. Greenlink West and Greenlink North, you may have heard of those. Those are both under my office. I'm the project manager on that. So I just really wanted to make sure that I left some time here to for you all to ask any questions you may have about any interest in the renewable energy picture and where we're going and what we're up to.
So questions? So Greg, we've seen some projects here recently described, which are bigger in terms of area than any project I've ever heard of on BLM land. How are you addressing those things to make sure that we actually look at protecting resources there? Wildlife and everything else. I mean, when we talk about things that are 50,000 acres and more for potentially single projects. We've never seen that kind of stuff before.
Yeah, what the applicants typically do is they apply for that many acreage. And then when it comes down to it, they don't ever come close to that. They end up doing a you know, the largest project is Gemini, and that's 6,500 acres, and that's 690 megawatts. And the utility, like Nevada Energy, is not going to buy gigawatts of power. They're just not going to do it because you don't want all your eggs in a basket, the one basket. So while they apply for large areas like that, it kind of blocks out other competition, but it also creates, when we're doing our pre-studies, it creates an ability to move that project around within that footprint to get a good range of alternatives, because we're asking them to do studies on the whole entire area. And when they start seeing the cost for the studies for 50,000 acres, they come back with an amended application and reduce to 20,000 acres. But they're still, at the end of the day, only building, the biggest project in Nevada is 6,500 acres. There's nothing bigger than that. Wind projects are large, but they're more of a linear type feature. They'll go for 50,000 acres, but at the end of the day, when they actually get permitted, they're in the range of 1,000 or 2,000 acres once we actually do the right-of-way grant. So I guess my final statement on that is that applicants start out big and end small always. And the reason they're doing that is to block out competition, to try to get a piece of the area to not let others develop in that area, because it's all about interconnects to substations. You can't just build a solar project in the middle of anywhere and not have a plan of how you're going to get that power to the grid. It's just not going to happen.
So Doug Furtado described an application involving 7 cooperating companies that wanted to build 5.5 gigawatts of power. That's how I came up with the 55,000 acres. You can't put 5.5 gigawatts on less than that because it's about 10 acres per megawatt. So you just, that doesn't make sense with what you just said.
So that transmission line is 4 gigawatts that they're trying to plug into. They're trying to apply for 5.35 gigawatts of energy. So while they have applied for that much, and while we work through the resource conflicts of their specific areas, at the end of the day, if they actually do get a grant, it's up to Nevada Energy, because we're talking about the Esmeralda substation, which is located right there, a 4 gigawatt transmission line. And they're not going to, Nevada Energy is not going to want all 4 gigawatts coming out of Esmeralda, right? So while we, the BLM, are land managers, we don't necessarily get to play in the energy game. Nevada Energy will have to pick winners or losers. So technically, if all of those projects were 400 megawatts, that's 2,800 megawatts or 2.8 gigawatts on a 4 gigawatt line. Sure, you could develop 7 of them, but a couple of those projects are proposed or dreaming that they would like to be a gigawatt of power. It's just not going to happen. It's not reality. So like I said, they always start off big. Even Gemini started off big, and reality comes when they start negotiating with the utilities to wheel the power on the transmission lines. And you can only fit so much on that. You know, transmission lines are like freeways. You can only fit so many electrons or cars on a freeway, and it's not possible beyond that. So I'm aware of that, and the acreage, and it's 62,000 acres at that specific site that you're mentioning. But things will work out as we go through the process.
I have a question. With your larger projects, even the smaller ones, how do you deal with disturbance and obnoxious weeds, fire, primarily cheatgrass, red brome, etc.?
It's twofold, right? You're doing your pre-studies to identify your impacts in the area. and then you're mitigating for those impacts. All the companies that if they get granted, not trying to be pre-decisional here, if they get granted, will have mitigation measures to take care of noxious weeds, or they'll have the inspection stations to make sure they're not transporting weeds with their vehicles, or they're running over those bumps to make sure that it's knocking stuff out of there. You know, because we're also concerned about tortoise and the birds, the avian issues. There's a whole range of stuff that we identify for the direct, indirect, and cumulative impacts when we're doing the studies. And what we're doing is we're doing the smart from a start approach. So we're doing our studies, and Doug's very good at this, doing our studies in front of NEPA, so that when we're getting into NEPA, we really have a good idea of what impacts are out there and what could be mitigated for. And then again, they're responsible for fire management. So they do up a fire management plan and work with the counties on that. And then we do inspections. We do inspections once, twice a year through our compliance inspection team. And we're looking for an overgrowth of weeds, because they also have what's called a PUP available to them. That stands for Pesticide Use Plan. And it not only is good for spiders, but it's good for weeds. So when we do our documents, we make sure that we do enough in there so that they can get a pesticide use plan, so that they can spray down the weeds and make sure that they're properly maintaining their sites, because these grants are good for 30 years. You know, we don't want 30 years worth of weeds out there, and that's just not going to be acceptable.
We also don't want 30 years of pesticide spraying either. So are they doing reseeding, et cetera, to try to keep out sheetgrass, red brome, et cetera?
That is a possibility, to do grazing to keep out that, which is, you know, the sheep can coexist with renewable energy. It's just you don't want them chewing on the electric cables, because it is a live field. So it's a possibility to do that. All the pesticides that are authorized to are within the range of, it's not just, you know, we're out there allowing them to spray decon or anything. It's under the guidelines of what's approved, so that we're not, you know, you spray a weed and it rolls out of your property and an animal eats it. It's not the type of weed that, or the type of pesticide that we're looking to be harmful to any kind of species. But there is a possibility that sheep could absolutely coexist with solar. We coexist with OHB nicely, with asking for road improvements and stuff like that. The Mint 400 runs right through one of the projects I did in Southern Nevada, which was Silver State South, high-speed truck and buggy races. So we work very well. And the industry is very keen on making sure that they are very in concert with the folks in the, they have big concerns to make sure that they're always trying to mitigate and do what's right.
I like your smart from the start approach quote, and I just might chime in that we tried to do something similar with the revegetating underneath solar panels, and had problems with the county in terms of fire ordinances, and it was a hard no to get county permits in terms of having anything underneath there. So as you're moving forward with that smart from the start approach, you might want to see if there's a way to get your project proponents and whoever's going to be doing the county permits in line, so that you can have some sort of native vegetation growing back in at the same time as fire protection.
Yeah, and we can also offset if the impact is great to the area and they're you know, for whatever reason, there's offsite mitigation available too, to improve areas, to make them better also. And a lot of what we do comes with 5 years worth of inspections, you know, to make sure that what they've done or what they've treated isn't coming back. You know, it's not just a one and done. It's 5 years typically worth of making sure that it's taking hold and that it's proper mitigation.
So one of the things that I see happening with large scale solar energy projects, which really doesn't seem to be addressed very often, is flood issues, flash flooding from heavy duty rainstorms, such as the kind of storm we saw in Death Valley just a couple of days ago. I'm thinking particularly here in southern Nevada, all of those plants on the Paiute Reservation, the Mojave-Paiute Reservation, any place in California Wash, all of that water is going to go right down into the Muddy River Valley and affect everything downstream from California Wash. How is the BLM actually looking at mitigating potential flood issues involving these very large areas in which the land has been completely denuded?
Well, so we're not denuding. I mean, Moapa did a lot of denuding on their BLM has changed from blading approach to a leaving vegetation there and mowing approach. So their vegetation remains intact. But I can tell you the hydrology study is very, very advanced because you don't want panels floating down and onto the freeway or whatever. So the project I did, Silver State South and North, there's a 35-foot deep 1 mile detention basin there, along with a couple other detention basins to let water flow out correctly. A lot of issues that the railroad was having in that area and some other areas. But typically what we look for on solar plants is either some kind of a detention basin or slowing down the water and then having sheet flow over the solar site and then returning to the ephemeral arteries that that their water was originally coming from. There's also stormwater prevention pollution plans, which are required for every solar site. So if there's any downstream issues from the solar site, the stormwater prevention pollution plan comes into effect, and then they have to clean up. They have to go and clean up the area and make sure that they're not polluting the rivers like the Muddy River or any other tributaries.
How does that exactly work? I mean, I have not seen detention basins big enough to contain the kinds of floods that we potentially could have. You weren't here back in the 80s when we had a major flood down California Wash that came down with an 8-foot wall of water and took out the dairy there in Moapa completely. And they lost about 2,000 cows in that event. It drowned. I haven't seen any kind of detention facilities that would be able to handle that kind of flood, which would be much greater now than it was then because of all that area that's been bladed. And the new stuff you talk about, it's not being bladed, it's just being mowed. When they take the heavy equipment in there to drive all the pylons to support those panels, it pretty much chews up the soil big time. It's not like they just mowed it and left the soil alone. It's really seriously disturbed.
Yeah, so we work with the Army Corps of Engineers on 401 and 404 permits if there's washes to jurisdictional waters of the US. But I can tell you that there are detention basins on just about every single solar project out there that are working through 100-year floodplain data that they have to work through with hydrologists. So it'll be in the EISs that we address these issues with flooding and how they're going to manage any 100-year or 50-year or 10-year floods because you're right, there's development and you're trying to channel the water to flood basin detentions. Even Las Vegas flooded recently and it went into the casinos. So even millions of dollars spent on detention basins and such like this still flooded Vegas. And all we can do is the best with the absolute data and rely on hydrologists and Army Corps of Engineers to really cross-check the data to make sure that we're not creating an issue and you know, major mudslides or anything like that.
Is 100-year flood planning relevant at this point in time? Death Valley's had 2,000-year flood events in the past 6 years or 8 years.
We go back to 100 years, which is what is required by the Army Corps of Engineers on the data when they work with those specific individuals. We also work on global warming issues and the change of environment and the change of how the flooding issues are. So yes, you can go back thousands of years, but you know, with things changing and drought and other issues that we got to be, you know, we're doing the best available science that we can possibly get. You know, you have to make an informed decision on the best available science, and that's what we're, you know, the authorized officers are clearly looking at.
So, other questions for Greg? Oh, I have one more question, Greg, and that is that the timing on all of these applications for solar plants in the state of Nevada. It looks like we're going to have a whole lot of plans or EISs coming out in a very short period of time. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct, but we don't try to put them in the exact same time frame. We try to stagger them so that the public doesn't show up for a meeting and we're talking about, you know, or have to choose between 3 different projects that are having meetings at the same time. So we try to coordinate and stagger meetings and not confuse folks and supply additional time to comment on said projects. So you are correct. We do have a lot. We have a big workload on deck, and with these 2 big, very large transmission lines being able to transport energy and make energy more reliable in the state of Nevada, Nevada Energy will be able to move that power. And that's all staying in Nevada. All that power is staying in Nevada.
So you just said all the power that would go on to Green Lake North and Green Lake West will all stay in Nevada.
Yes,
So,
that's what Nevada Energy's that's in their plan of development.
Okay, so what we heard from the district managers here is adding them up, there's more than 50 solar applications out there. How many of those do you think are going to the power from which will remain in Nevada, and how many are really for supplying California and other areas with power?
Well, it's up to the applicants, right? So you could technically get on Nevada Energy's grid and send power to California if you're getting a power purchase agreement from California. So with Grid Alliance, which is CAISO here in Nevada, California Independent Service Operators, you have right through Pahrump and right through down to Boulder City, you have connection paths to California where power is currently being sent. So it's really up to the balancing authority, the utilities, and the applicants where they're able to send their power for a return on, to get a return on investment. These projects are, on average, they run about 1.2 million per megawatt, right around there. So, you're talking 500 megawatts. It's $500 million, $600 million by the time you're investing into it. So it's a business, right? And we're charging rent, and we're charging a megawatt surcharge. So there is a return to the public through money going to the treasury and such. And then, we're following the regulations. So I can't guarantee you that all the power that's being done by projects is going to stay in Nevada. It's not up to us.
So maybe I didn't understand, but I thought you said that all of the power that was transmitted on Greenlink West and Greenlink North would stay in Nevada. Is that what you said?
That is correct. So all that power that Greenlink West and Greenlink North are transmitting in Nevada, according to Nevada Energy, all that power is staying in Nevada. Now, when you can't follow an electron through a transmission line, right? It just doesn't show up. So when it gets to the substation, like say Harry Allen, say Greenlink North gets to Robinson, Robinson gets to Harry Allen, those electrons, some of those electrons end up in Boulder City, and some of those electrons end up in California. That's up to Nevada Energy as far as this question has come up on Greenlink. So the Greenlink project's power is staying in Nevada, but if Nevada Energy has the ability to sell some power, then that reduces the rates for ratepayers. So it's all balancing authority and Nevada Energy and how power is wheeled through the state of Nevada. It's not something that's the BLM controls.
I understand the BLM doesn't control it. I'm just trying to make sense of what you said and put it together. So all of those solar projects, they would be dependent upon getting a power purchase agreement with Nevada Power to be able to hook up to Greenlink West or North. Is that correct?
Yes, or they can get what's called a wheeling contract. So they put their power on the transmission line and it goes, say, from there it goes to Fort Churchill, and from Fort Churchill it goes to Robinson, and from Robinson it goes to Harry Allen, and from Harry Allen somehow it goes over to LS Power's line, and then from LS Power it goes, that's called wheeling power. So they could technically sell power to Southern Cal Edison for X amount of money, and then they could wheel their power along the freeway and get the power there, and then collect the money for that. But the Nevada Energy transmission lines, Greenlink West and Greenlink North, they only connect to substations here in Nevada, and power stays in Nevada. Where it goes, like Robinson has a connection from Utah. It has a connection that goes south that's part of CAISO. It has a connection coming in from the north, which is part of CAISO. And it also has a connection that's of power that stays in Nevada called online. It's power. Once it goes on the transmission line, where it goes is it's going to the load center. So how they figure that out is literally up to the utilities and the balancing authority and the PUC.
Okay, well, it's a little bit confusing. It's not quite clear to me what power generated in Nevada stays in Nevada means.
Yeah, and I would be happy to have this conversation with you. I noticed that we have about 3 minutes left. I believe my email address is available, ghelseth@blm.gov. I'm a branch chief for the state of Nevada. I'll be more than happy to, if you send me an email, to respond and to try to clear up how power moves around and how it, whether or not it stays in Nevada and all this other stuff. So I would be more than happy to communicate with you at a later time.
Thank you.
Most welcome. It's what I'm here for.
Good. So any more questions for Greg? If not, thank you.
You're very welcome. I hope you all have a very nice day. I'll be signing off. Thank you very much.
Okay, bye-bye. So that brings us to Red Rock Canyon, the update on the conservation area business plan.
Yeah, I'll kick us off. Kirsten, is it okay if I just present from here for volume?
So let's just double check that. The folks who are on Zoom only, can you hear him from there?
I can hear just fine.
Thank you.
I can hear.
So, yeah, so again, I'm Josh Travers. I'm the Assistant Field Manager for the Red Rock Sloan Field Office. Excited to be here, excited to present our project proposal to you this afternoon. The presentation I'm providing to you is to share our proposal to modify the Red Rock Canyon business plan that was recommended for approval by this very same group back in 2018. We're asking for a modification because we've learned and currently use a management tool that is not only being used nationally by other federal land management agencies, but also is a tool that both the Department of Interior and the Bureau of Land Management has mandated that we use for fee collections and when having to manage large volumes of visitors. In 2018, the Red Rock Canyon business plan was recommended to the state director for approval by the RAC that allowed us to increase fees in 2018 and again increase fees in 2023. The recommendation included the expansion of the Red Rock Canyon conservation area fee area to include Calico Basin. Today, we are asking that you support us, just as you did in 2018, that set us on this proactive direction to best manage Red Rock Canyon and uphold our congressional mandate. We're asking for a recommendation from you that supports the following. That's to add a standard amenity fee for the Red Rock Canyon Scenic Drive that's equal to the associated recreation.gov reservation service fee that I'll show in the next slide. I'm asking that we're able to add an expanded amenity fee for the Red Rock Canyon campground that's equal to the associated recreation.gov reservation service fee, and asking that we add a standard amenity fee for the Calico Basin core area that's equal to the associated recreation.gov reservation fee. Today, millions of visitors use recreation.gov to plan, reserve, and share their federal land recreational experiences in national parks, campgrounds, picnic areas, boat launches, and other heavily used recreation access points. The system is highly complex and is customizable to fit the needs of thousands of recreation sites. It is built to allow for cashless and online transactions to take place while protecting personally identifiable information, credit card information, personal information, so that we can process refunds, other sensitive information like that. It provides customer support across 6 time zones. It provides training and business reporting. It provides web-based field management tools. A perfect example of a web-based management tool that we used in 2021 on Veterans Day. Early in the morning, Red Rock Canyon experienced a shooting in our high use area right in front of the visitor center. It was an officer involved shooting. As we went into a lockdown, we were able to use this system to communicate to everyone coming out to Red Rock that had a reservation and tell them, do not come out to Red Rock Canyon. We've got a very intense situation happening, and we ask people to stay away. An incredible communication tool that it provided to us. It provides ongoing external and internal maintenance, programming, and coding needs that's constantly maintaining the program, and it allows us to provide marketing and critical communication platform or information through their platform for the needs of every site using it. So we can inform people of floods, we can inform people of very busy periods. It's an incredible communication tool to everyone visiting Red Rock. The last thing that we're asking for, number 3 on that list, was to modify the existing name of, we're in the business plan. Back in 2018, we were not consistent in the use of Calico Basin. We used a variety of names, Red Spring Boardwalk and Picnic Area, Red Springs, Calico Basin. We're asking to clean that up and use the name Calico Basin Core Fee Area, which was used in our 2022 Calico Basin Recreation Area Management Plan. Next slide. So this table shows exactly what we're asking for today. And just to give you an example of how reservations are made, they can be made online where someone 30 days in advance could be in their living room, make a reservation online for Red Rock within a 30-day window. They can do that from their living room. They can drive up to the fee booth. If reservations are available, they can make a reservation at the fee booth. And then anyone can call the 1-800 number that recreation.gov provides and make a reservation through their customer service line. So to make an online or on-site reservation, the fee is $2. So today, a vehicle entering Red Rock is $15. So the total that they're paying is $15 plus a $2 online or on-site fee. If they call the 1-800 number and make a phone reservation, it's a $3 fee. So it would be 15 plus 3, an $18 fee. So we're asking to add the $2 or $3 fee to the cost for coming through the fee bills. The campground provides the same type of service online or on-site or phone reservation. The reason why the fees in the campground are higher is because it's a very complex system. There's different services that are offered when using the system. For a campground, the service provides, you can look at every single campsite and browse through a campground and to pick your campsite. You can work very closely with a customer service representative that helps you find a campsite that meets your needs. But there's a lot more support that goes into managing a campground. And so recreation.gov charges the $8 for the online or on-site, or $9 for the phone reservation. So to be clear, what we're asking for is the cost of these reservations to be added to the cost that a vehicle or a motorcycle or a commercial tour vehicle enters Red Rock. Next slide. So and again, I'm going to quickly go through these slides. You guys got the presentation. I know you've been able to look at these. I want to ensure that I provide adequate time for you to ask questions, which I think is the most important for this group. So real quickly, all of Red Rock Canyon's fees stay within Red Rock. We're using 100% of those fees to administer and provide operations or maintain facilities, provide law enforcement, those type of things. Next slide. Over the last 5 years, Red Rock Canyon has spent 36% of our fees for operations, 64% for labor, 14% on grants and agreements. This is a lot of buckets combined into three categories, but roughly that's what we're spending. It is 14% higher than what we're collecting in recreation fees, and that's amenity fees, and that's because it costs more than what we're collecting in fees to administer and manage Red Rock Canyon. One quick example, back in 2020, we did, putting the 2018 increased fees to use. We've done a lot of incredible projects, but we've added a tremendous number of staff. In 20, that started, we wrote a lot of vacancies all the way through COVID. We increased staff again in 2021. In 2022, we're now looking at an additional 25% increase to our labor. And indirectly, that's going to bring 10 to 15% increase in operations. So we're really, today, we're managing Red Rock Canyon at 150% more than what we're collecting in fees. So fees are incredibly important to us, but we're having every year, it's getting harder and harder for us to be strategic and really look at how we're bringing additional money into Red Rock Canyon. to support the program and to support our continued management. Next slide. So real quickly, Red Rock Canyon is a national conservation area that gets quickly forgotten. We're referred to often as a national park. And our number one mandate is that we're going to protect the resources for all of those enjoying Red Rock today, but ensure that they're there for future generations. And then secondary to that, if you want to go ahead and start the next. Secondary to that, we're mandated to manage for recreation access, but in a way that meets sustainable recreation and meets our goals for conservation. This is a common theme prior to 2020. This was a common theme on State Route 159. Fridays through Mondays, we saw this on a regular basis. And this is common fall, winter, and spring in Red Rock Canyon. During March and April, October and November, and then Thanksgiving all the way to the New Year, we saw this type of visitation midweek. And so it just incredible amount of growth at Red Rock Canyon that really pushed us to start having to think about how we're managing the national conservation area, especially with the mandate to protect resources is our number one priority, and then recreation access behind that. We substantial impacts of resources were happening. We were constantly reminded of a diminishing visitor experience, and we were having to address some substantial health and safety issues. Particularly, we were not able to respond to search and rescue and emergency situations appropriately. Next slide. Our management of that visitation was to shut our gates, which restricted all use into Red Rock Canyon. We were in 2019, we were in March, we were closing the gate twice a day. And some of the closure periods lasted anywhere from 1 hour to 3 hours. And when we closed the gates, we had to just wait until it would thin out on the scenic drive, giving us the ability to open our gates back up and allow visitation to come in. And it was not an appropriate way to manage Red Rock. There were a lot of people dependent who had planned to come to Red Rock to come in. We get visitors, a lot of local visitors, but we get visitors from all over the world that plan well ahead to come here, whether they're visiting the Strip and told they need to come here, or they deliberately came here to climb, mountain bike, hike, whatever it may be. They were then locked out. In addition to this, we added another problem. Whenever we closed this gate, State Route 159 would come to a standstill. Road rage would happen. People would make U-turns in State Route 159. Accidents were occurring. We were getting collisions with increasing recreation that was happening on the shoulders of State Route 159. Substantial impacts to the way that we were managing the national conservation area, especially the scenic drive. So in 2018, Red Rock Canyon completed a capacity study. It was a multi-year project. The report confirmed, said your parking lots are exceeding 300% in visitation, or 300% of capacity. We were seeing substantial impacts to resources, and they confirmed the visitor experience was getting diminished based off of the surveys and information that they were collecting. They made a handful of recommendations. One of those was to increase staff, which we've done. Another recommendation was to address this with a system like a reservation system to really start to look at how we can address the congestion and increasing visitation. Next slide. I talked about a lot of the benefits that the reservation system provides. It's an incredible tool, very powerful way of communication. One more very important thing to add to that is we were managing anywhere from $50,000 to $75,000 in cash a week. And there was substantial cash sitting down in our fee booth. The use of this system has brought our cash down to anywhere from, on average, $1,000 to $5,000, which really lessens the risk of having that volume of cash down at the base of the scenic drive. It's also really important to know that this reservation system, 7 days a week during its use, we've worked very closely with the public and heard the concern of having a reservation system where we have a window of low use, 7 days a week. It starts at 6 a.m. and goes all the way to 8 a.m. And then for every month that we're open 5 p.m. and later, there's no reservation required. So this increase in fee would not apply in the morning hours and would not apply in that later hour after 5 p.m. In addition to that, the increase in fee would not apply during the summer where we do not have a visitation. So in March 2022, a district court ruled in a lawsuit that challenged the time entry reservation system and service fee for the scenic drive, that the $2 service fee for making a reservation constitutes a recreation fee that needs to be submitted to the Resource Advisory Committee for review and recommendation. I want to be very clear, we are the only site that out of the many sites that use the recreation fee that is having to do this, where this is a unique judgment that was made strictly to Red Rock Canyon that's forcing us to treat the fee that recreation.gov charges as a recreation fee. This, you know, if we can't increase our fees to support this, it's going to hurt our ability to further manage Red Rock Canyon substantially. Because we're going to have to pay that out of our fee dollars that we're collecting today. Next slide. There's a lot of, I gave you a lot of stuff that we're doing in the background to ensure that we're reaching underserved communities. We're going to continue to do that work. We continue to have conversations with Southern Nevada Conservancy, Friends of Red Rock, and these different organizations on how we can better serve these communities. But I also want to state that collectively, Calico Basin and the Scenic Drive are the only two fee areas in Red Rock Canyon. They serve approximately 20% of the national conservation area. Red Rock has incredible places to visit all through the NCA. We're doing a lot of work to ensure that we're providing adequate and developed access all through the NCA. We've partnered with the city of Las Vegas. We continue to partner with Summerlin, where a tremendous amount of development is happening. We're securing access points that's going to continue to allow recreation to happen throughout the NCA. That's fee-free, reservation-free, a tremendous amount of access.
So 2 minutes.
Thank you. We held 2 public meetings prior to meeting with you today. And then we opened up a 30-day commenting period. We received 538 comments. 50% of those comments came back in opposition of the fee increase, 25% in opposition, and 25% that didn't apply to the business plan modification whatsoever. I will say that in the 50% that opposed, we received half of those came in a format with instructions on what to comment on. So some interesting comments that came in. I will share that in those comments, they focused on that we're spreading use throughout the conservation area by using these types of tools, which we want to do, and we're doing the work to plan with the city of Las Vegas to increase recreation access. I'm almost there to increase recreation access, but we want to spread the use because, out of the 4 million people that's going to come to Red Rock today, this year, we want to have some of that use go to these other areas. And so we're doing a lot of focus to ensure that we're creating adequate access. So again, I really want to focus on the 4 things that we're trying to do, and that's add the standard amenity fee for the scenic drive and the campground and the Calico Basin core area, And then fourth, clean up the language in the business plan to provide consistency in how we reference Caliber Basin so that there's full transparency in what we're doing.
Take a lot.
So you ready for questions?
I'm ready for questions. Yes.
So, Chair.
I have one. If I remember correctly, when I read, and I thought I didn't print it out, but I thought I could find it, but I can't. That it's like, when you make a reservation through that recreation.gov, if I make a camping reservation, it's $10, but it's $10 for each night that I'm there. So normally if you make a reservation somewhere, you just maybe pay maybe one reservation fee for your whole stay, but not $10 for every night. Do you know where that money really goes back to? The recreation.gov gets? Does it go back to you guys? Does it go to them? That $50 for the night stay, for a 5-night stay?
So it's going back to us in the sense that it's the operations that we're paying for that system, for the use of that system. We have to pay for that service. I mean, the service provides so much opportunity for people to book their campground sites or to make their reservation to enter the scenic drive. The system allows for people to make that reservation. It's securing all of their personal identifiable information. It's providing the customer service support. If they need help, they can call someone to help them make those reservations. It's the building and constant maintenance of the program itself that supports the reservations, that allows people to select the different campsites and really see what it is that they're making a reservation.
Well,
It's much different than like making a reservation at your barber shop or your restaurant. There's a lot of work in the back shop that keeps that system running. If the federal government had to run a system like that, it would cost the federal government and the visitor far more than the $2 or $6 that we're paying, because that's just not, we don't have those services. And for us to build that, it would be a tremendous cost on the visitor, on the taxpayer.
I understand it, so I was just curious why for each night.
So my understanding is it's not for each night.
Oh, I thought you got that.
I specifically saw written down in one of these things that it's a one-time fee for making a campground reservation, whether it's 1 night or 5 or 10 or whatever.
That is correct. So you can book, when you book 5 nights, you get 1 service fee.
Okay, I read it wrong. I misunderstood something, because I was thinking, why would I pay $50 for a reservation for 5 nights when I should only pay the 10? Okay.
The only time that changes is if you're there for 3 nights and then you get on and you say, I want to stay 2 more, and you go back in and you extend your stay. It's a separate transaction.
I was gonna clarify that because I had it right here. It was the only one fee, but I know we're in discussion, but when we had this conversation, I can't remember how many years ago, 4 years ago.
Yeah.
I know that the budget was really based on collecting the entire fee. So without that additional, without the ability to collect the additional fee, then that eats into the program resources. So, and I know it was a finely crafted budget back then because we debated that quite a while. We had lots of conversations about how much is too much and where does that number lie. So I'd be concerned that we wouldn't even be collecting the right amount of resources anymore to be able to accomplish the work and the amenities and improvements that, that list was pretty long.
Yeah, this group set us on a path moving forward. With the fees that we're collecting, we've been able to do a lot of really good work and bring additional resources on to help us in the management. I mean, an example is in 2019, we had 3 park rangers and today we have 13. That's boots on the ground. That's out there 7 days a week, helping visitors. That's all from fee dollars, and are asked to allow this to be considered in the recreation fees to allow us to continue that great work.
So one of those last slides you had up there, basically a sentence that says, add an expanded amenity fee for the RRCNCA scenic drive equal to the associated recreation.gov reservation service fee. That literally says that the $2 fee will be added to every single amenity fee for using the scenic drive, whether you get a reservation or not. I assume that's not what you mean.
No, it only applies during the high use period when reservations are in effect. So the $2 or $3, you can't make a reservation from 6 a.m. to 8 a.m. And so they wouldn't, a visitor wouldn't be paying that $2 or $3 because they can't make a reservation for that time.
So it would be when applicable.
Okay, but it
During
doesn't
the
say that
reservation.
because your messaging here is very confusing, man. Because people are assuming whether you get a reservation or not, you're gonna be paying the fee. The other question I have is, since now most of the action is really paid with credit cards, what is your fee for, what do you pay the credit card company for making that transaction? So you don't get $15 if somebody pays with a credit card, right?
We don't get that fee. So the credit card.
I'm not talking about the reservation fee. I'm talking about the amenity fee for entrance. If you just said you went from $50,000 to $70,000 in cash down to $5,000. That means people are using credit cards.
Correct.
To pay for that. My question is, what are you paying the credit card company for doing the transaction?
So the recreation.gov system is the management system that runs all of those transactions. So that fee is what gets absorbed in this $2 or $3 fee. The running of a credit card, the $2 or $3 is covering that banking fee. We're not privy to the credit card transaction fees that recreation.gov gets charged at every swipe of a credit card. We don't get that information.
Well, essentially, that's money coming out of your budget. In other words, instead of getting $15, you're getting less than that because somebody used a credit card. That's my understanding of how it works.
Well, when someone makes a reservation, they're in advance, they're paying their amenity fee and the service fee for using recreation.gov. So when they use that system and they put in their credit card or they swipe it, there's a banking fee associated with that, but it's absorbed into that $2 or $3 that recreation.gov is charging. But that's a portion of what that $2 or $3 increase is covering.
Okay, but if somebody comes during the non-reservation time and they pay with a credit card, which I assume is happening fairly often, then who eats the credit card fee?
Recreation.gov. It's an agreement that we've made in ensuring that we can create these windows early in the morning, later in the evening, and during the summer. Recreation.gov.
So recreation.gov handles all the credit card things, no matter what. Is that what you're saying?
That is correct.
So that puts a little bit different complexion on this thing. So even if a person shows up at the gate and there's no reservation, it's not a reservation time, and here's my $15. If they give you $15 in cash, you get the $15. If they say, oh, here's my credit card, then you don't get the $15, you get something less than that. And recreation.gov takes the difference. Is that right?
We get the $15. The credit card transaction is just absorbed by recreation.gov.
I believe that the credit card goes up through our collection and billing system up to our National Operations Center. And then they in turn take all those funds and then pay recreation.gov.
So to clarify, hopefully what John's saying, is it $15 period regardless of when you go there? Or is it $15 and then if you use recreation.gov, it's 15 plus $2 more?
That's
It's
correct.
$17. Okay, that's.
If you're using the
con-
reservation
The consumer pays the extra, they pay the credit card fee to. Okay,
So then, so if the $2 is paid to recreation.gov, does recreation.gov keep that entire $2, or does that then go to Red Rock?
Recreation.gov is using that $2 for the administration of the system.
So
It's-
they keep the entire $2?
They do.
Okay, so they keep the entire $2 or the entire $10. So the money that goes to Red Rock doesn't change at all with this increase.
But there are different forms of how it's paid, whether it's online through the system, it's a different form of how the payments process, as opposed to paying on site through our the point of sale system through our fee collections and using the credit card system through that. A little bit different. But it all goes into the same pot, and it's been worked out through our National Operations Center with an assistance agreement. So this is what all the federal agencies are working through with recreation.gov.
So this change wouldn't change the money or the activities, because we have like different activities that are planned for the next year. It wouldn't change the income for that.
No.
Okay, because that was
No.
in here and I was kind of, I didn't
Right.
know. And so this is purely just to keep this system running.
Correct.
It has nothing to do with any other
No.
programs that Red
No,
Rock
nothing
has.
that's happening in the background, it's just to keep everything.
Okay.
However, if not approved, it does change because then we're using a reservation system that's coming out of the fee dollars that we're currently approved for. And which is going to decrease the amount of money that we've got available to put towards the operations and labor and the management of the incident.
Right, the system would need to be changed. You got that.
so I'm racking my brain trying to remember, but there is a congressional act that for every transaction oil or every so many dollars oil and gas makes, they kick into a national fund for maintenance, conservation, et cetera. And there's billions of dollars in that fund. You do not get any of those funds, or could you not get any of those funds to maintain and operate the facility?
I am not aware of that, if we're able to tap into those funds. We're just able to use this recreation program under FLORIA, the Federal Lands Recreation Enhancement Act. And so that's where we're able to collect fees, the standard and expanded amenity fees, and use those funds to put those funds back into this area. That's a program we're able to use right now for the national conservation area.
I'm not sure that it
So
matters. I'm not sure that it matters though if this fee's only paying the.
So this.
But I mean, if it's just paying the service fee.
So as Josh mentioned, the district court judge has seen this reservation fee, is considering that reservation fee under recreation.gov as a recreation fee. So that's under this FLORIA. So that's why we're coming to request that those fees be considered as one of our recreation fees and be incorporated along with our other fees.
And our budgets, we're constantly working very closely with headquarters in the state office and the financial needs of Red Rock Canyon, and they're always on the lookout for additional pots of money. And I mean, that's how we're operating at a cost of operations that's beyond what the fee dollars bring into Red Rock Canyon. And that's how we're going to continue to have to work that way as we continue to to manage Red Rock Canyon that's beyond the cost or beyond the amount of money that we're bringing in from fee generation.
And I have no problem with people paying fees for use. Grazing does it all the time. So that's not the issue, but I go back to the question, if there's billions of dollars sitting in a fund that for conservation, maintenance, and use of federal land parks, why are you not getting any of those funds to utilize for your facility? And it won't change my vote if we take one today, but there's money out there, so.
Is that restricted to national parks?
I don't know for sure. I don't believe so. But I've been a while.
Well, and I think that's something that could be further researched, and more resources available to enhance the experience. I mean, expenses are not going to go down. About how challenging it is to keep a workforce. I think there's costs that are increasing across the board. So if there's an opportunity to tap into some of that, maybe that's a recommendation we could make to take a look and research. Knowing how grants work and the competitive nature, that takes a while, and who knows if the next funding cycle.
Yeah, I'm fine with what you're saying. If there's an opportunity to tap into those funds, though, then we ought to tap into them.
And it's a conversation that's ongoing for us, and we're not. This isn't a conversation that's only happening out of Red Rock Canyon. We're asking support from our state office and our national office, who's looking at all these different avenues for funding. And so, I mean, if there's pots of millions and millions of dollars or billions, they're going to find those for us and bring that to us as they can. There's, and if we don't have it now, there's reasoning why we don't have it now. It's, they're really trying to explore.
Maybe. I've been the government too long to say.
So this is Robert, and I got my hand up. I'd sure like to talk if I can have the floor.
You were next.
All right, can I go?
Yeah, go ahead, Robert.
First of all, let me just tell you, I grew up in Las Vegas. I lived on the outskirts of Charleston and Decatur. I spent my youth in this area, and I loved it. I think it's a state treasure that we need to keep going and allow other people to enjoy it. So I think today you came to us asking to raise your fees. And quite frankly, I don't think we're raising them high enough with inflation and the things that are going on in our country, the labor rates, it's just hard to hire people, and the way to do that is to pay them more money. But I think we're getting caught up in the weeds here. I think that a reservation system, no matter who runs it's going to cost money. So the question we need to ask ourselves, are they charging us too much to run this system? I don't think they are. I think it's a reasonable fee. I also believe that we really ought to be asking for more money to enter in. I don't know how you can run an operation out there without these fees. I also think some of the comments that maybe there's other money out there, I think that's great. I think we should pursue all the money that someone will give us. But today, I think the decision before us is allowing them to raise the fees, and let's not get caught up in some of the weeds here. So with that being said, I make a motion that we accept the raise.
I think we need to have public comment before we take a motion, and we may have some more wrap comments as well. So could you just hold that motion for a while?
Yes, I can.
Thank you.
Back in the early stages, so I've been at this a long time, of SNPLMA and whatnot, when we approved the funds, or recommended to approve the funds to build Red Rock, which is an absolute very cool thing. We did discuss at that time that SNPLMA was not something to fund it year to year to year, that it needed to be self-supporting. So in that point, we do need to, things cost more now. Just
So
wanted to
just
throw
to-
that in. I remember when we,
Just to clarify, SNPLMA cannot be used to pay salaries for ongoing
yeah, that
operations.
was all, it was to build it only,
It's,
not
capital,
operate.
capital resources, trails, things like that, amenities you can pay for, but you can't.
Because that was the big discussion clear
Yeah.
back at the beginning. If we build this, how do we fund it to run it? Well, that's the whole point.
So, a question I have is, what percentage of the visitors coming to the greater Red Rock Canyon NCA actually pay the fee? Because if you go to First Creek or Oak Creek or go to the Cottonwood Canyon, you don't pay any fees. So do you have a number as to what percentage of, well, first of all, do you have an idea of the numbers of people who are not coming through any sort of fee station and are going to those other places to park and use the facilities?
It's approximately 3 million people are coming to Calico Basin and the Scenic Drive, and there's about 1 million that are spread out through the NCA. Heavy concentration in Cottonwood Valley, Blue Diamond, South NCA area.
So is any thought being given as to how to get those people to actually contribute financially to the operation of the area? Because they're certainly using resources.
So this current business plan is written to take us to 2023 and the next 5 years. And so what Red Rock Canyon is going to have to do is look at what is the next version of a business plan going to look like that would likely be implemented in 2028 that could address some of that. But we're not looking at fee collections in those current areas. It's going to be what we're collecting in Calico Basin and the Scenic Drive that will support the increased use throughout the NCA. We're spreading it out.
So you do have a mechanism though to collect other monies and going to the fee station. You basically have the annual support pass. What are you doing to advertise that to get people who use other areas to actually buy those? And do you have any sense of how many of them are buying those now? Is it vanishingly small or is it noticeable and useful?
I didn't bring a number of how many people are buying the Red Rock Canyon annual pass, but it's fairly substantial. We sell a large number of them.
Next question. This is 2022. Most business plans that I'm familiar with only really extend out 5 years. So this plan's already 5 years old, pretty much all of you're modifying it at this point. Do you think that it would be reasonable to really start working now on a new business plan that really looks forward, giving the severe increases in numbers of people and the challenges of managing all of those people?
Yeah, absolutely. So in around 2019 is where we really started doing a lot of planning around Red Rock. We've completed the Harris Spring Recreation Area Management Plan. We've got the Cottonwood Valley Recreation Area Management Plan in the works. We just completed the Calico Basin Recreation Area Management Plan, which is setting management direction for all these different areas. And so yeah, we're looking at how we can best manage those areas and what is that going to look like as we move forward. So we're taking proactive steps complementary to that, and doing this great work. We're going to have to look at what the next version of the business plan is going to look like starting now. And we're being very proactive today, and we have to keep that momentum going because we're trending to be at 5 million visitors by 2025. If we don't have a plan that's going to provide access for 5 million people, we're going to be in a world of hurt. I mean, those resources are going to continue just to get degraded. And so we're planning a legacy trail that's gonna offset some of that. And this is a 40-mile paved trail that we think is gonna take it's going to be a non-motorized version of the Scenic Drive. It's going to be an incredible asset for providing sustainable access through the canyon. Complementary to that, we're looking at 8 trailheads outside of Calico Basin and the Scenic Drive that we're going to further develop, provide some facilities at, and and ensure that we're providing adequate access. So, I mean, there's a lot of work that's looking at that.
Yeah, it's now 3:30. So
Yeah,
it's time
two-
for a public comment.
So do we have public comment on this plan?
Okay, we're together.
All right, well, you
So
figured
we'll,
it out.
we'll start with the room and then we'll pull the folks that are on Zoom.
Yeah.
And then I'll go ahead and change the screen here, so we'll have a timer that pops up. And so if you could just mind the timer.
Do you need me to stand or?
Whichever, just stay in your area, if you want to stand, sit, whatever
Okay.
works for you.
Really quickly, let me introduce myself. I'm Jose Lick, the Executive Director of Southern Nevada Conservancy, along with our board president. So we're going to submit a comment to the RAC. I'm just going to read the letter really quickly. Southern Nevada Conservancy is a nonprofit partner with the U.S. With BLM, Forest Service, Fish and Wildlife Service, and our mission is to create opportunities for the public to discover, understand, and enjoy your public lands. The majority of the work we do is conducted at Red Rock Canyon NCA. We provide educational and interpretive programs for the public, students, and manage retail operations. And we also manage the fee booths that we were talking about, Scenic Drive. That's one of the agreements that we have with the agency. Our staff interacts with visitors from all over the world to provide vital safety information and tips on how to enjoy their visit. We saw firsthand the impact of the reservation system, which was introduced in 2020. It's really assisted our team in managing the rapidly increasing annual visitation at Red Rock. Prior to the system, as was mentioned prior, during peak seasons, holidays, weekends, the entrance would have to be simply closed due to safety concerns. Illegal parking happened, traffic congestion on the 159, just because the area was over capacity. Emergency vehicles experienced delays, weren't able to get to people who needed help in the scenic loop. Visitors waited long lines, and again, they just arrived to a closed gate. The goal of the reservation system is to manage and spread visitation throughout the day, and this allows guaranteed entry. If you have a reservation, you're going to get in. It avoids those wait times, long wait times, and that provides a better visitor experience. It's one tool to manage, the reservation system is one tool to manage the visitation at NCA. It should also be noted that major national parks all over the country are experiencing and installing these type of systems. We know that these type of systems do limit some visitors' ability to access, and so we'd like to encourage BLM to continue to look for means to provide equitable access.
And your time's up.
Okay, thank you.
You know, I think, I don't know how many people are online wanting to make public comment, but I think we only have a few people here. We're gonna have time. We may not have to limit people dramatically.
Up to you, yeah. I think we have at least 3 people online.
Okay, so you're
We're
the
together.
lady in the.
We're together.
You're together, okay. Then, if that's all the public comment here, we're ready to go to the online people for public comment.
So Samuel, if you could moderate that for 3 minutes or 2 minutes, the same thing that we had in here, and do in the order that is in the Teams chat.
Sure. So the first one up would be Peter Foley. Peter, I'm going to allow you to talk, so feel free to unmute yourself.
Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Okay, good. So my comment is it's a 3-part question specifically related to Calico and to social justice and equity. And in some ways that presentation was a bit misleading because Calico is currently a free resource, and it's been a long established free resource for the Las Vegas area and Nevadas for a very long time. And it's a resource that allows people of all ages to explore the environment and the educational and health benefits that come from that. What I will tell you, as I'm a behavioral scientist, is that increasing the fee from $0 to over $20 is going to disproportionately block access to people who are disadvantaged, people on low incomes, and minorities. And for that reason, I think the introduction of a fee at Calico is a very bad thing to do. Furthermore, crowding at Calico is very sporadic. and only occurs at weekends. That video that you saw was really quite misleading. I think that's from one of the free weekends. It does get crowded at weekends there, but nothing like that video shows. And Mondays to Fridays at Calico are largely empty. So, and I've posted numerous videos showing that. So I invite you to look online on YouTube for that. So my question is why do we have to introduce a fee system to Calico during the week when the problem only occurs at weekends? Why wouldn't it make more sense to do it at weekends? And thirdly, we've seen that the introduction of the reservation system is a barrier to entry. Again, I can tell you that from behavioral economics and behavioral science. And if I look at the income from Red Rock, in 2019, it was 3.9 million. In 2020, it was 3.6. And in 2021, it was 3.6. So it's dropped a third since the introduction of a reservation system. What I can promise you is that introducing a reservation system to Calico is going to drive people from Calico to the other free areas. So it's the opposite of what some of you were saying. It's going to drive people to First Creek and the less prepared areas of the whole Red Rock area. It's not going to help very much at all in terms of revenue. It's just going to drive people to the areas they don't have to pay. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Okay.
Next,
We're taking another one from online. Is that correct?
yes,
Correct.
Okay, so the next one is John Hedges. You are able to talk, John.
Hello, can you hear me?
yes.
Okay, thank you. My name is John Hedges. I'm a concerned citizen of Las Vegas. I would like to address the Red Rock business plan. This business plan seems to lock into place decisions made during the development of the Calico Basin Recreation Area Management Plan. I want to emphasize that there are appeals in place at the Interior Board of Land Appeals. Docket numbers IBLA 2022-0217, 0224, and 0225. I'm not a party to these appeals, but I wanted to bring up some issues that were brought forth here. The problem that I see with the Calico Basin is not necessarily the fee. I don't think charging a fee is necessarily a bad thing, but the construction of the toll booth will be damaging to the landscape, and the reservation program that we've been discussing, it's operated by a third-party vendor, Booz Allen Hamilton. They operate recreation.gov. They're most well known for conducting surveillance on American citizens, and I don't believe that a third party should be making money off of public access to public lands. Calico Basin is a residential area. The owners of the homes there will unfairly benefit from the gated community style infrastructure that will be constructed there free of charge for them. The Calico Basin residents, along with their associates and friends, will be free to come and go with express lane access, while members of the public will be forced to register online. There is also a lawsuit that was filed against the reservation system, and locking out the public from their land is not a favorable outcome. The Calico Basin Recreation Management Plan went through public commenting processes where it showed the plan was wildly unpopular, and suggestions for improvement seem to go unheard. I've got a lot more to say, but I'm unfortunately timed out.
Thank you.
Next. Hey, up next is Thomas. Is your mic working, Thomas?
Yes, I believe so.
Go ahead.
Thank you. So just a few numbers. The Congress appropriates approximately $500,000 to run the entire NCA. The BLM collects roughly $3 million in fees, maybe 3.5 with the increase in visitation. The reservation fee of $2 will be collected from maybe 3 million, maybe 2 million people. That's $4 million. So the money for the reservation fee, these $4 million, $5 million, whatever you might approve, will go to Booz Allen Hamilton, your neighborhood-friendly defense contractor, and they will stay with it. So the people, the public, would perhaps be more perceptive to a fee if the fee was ending with the National Conservation Area, but it is not. You are, if you approve this plan, allowing a defense contractor to siphon more than what is currently the annual budget of the entire NCA for all those rangers, for all those trails, for all those improvements, go to the defense contractor for running a system. Now, I understand that the BLM and specifically Mr. Travers seems to be drunk with the recreation.gov Kool-Aid, but the system is nothing special. It is a reservation system like any other, and any competing system could probably do it as a fraction of the price. The system allows for a creating of a same process, issuing the late exit passes for a quarter of this price. And we only issue a few of those, and the system still worked. So no fee or a significant reduction in the fee is asked for. Furthermore, this board cannot abdicate the fee setting practice as the BLM would like it to a defense contractor, to a private corporation. Thank you.
Thank you, Thomas. Up next is Adam. Adam, are you able to talk?
Yeah, can you all hear me?
Yes.
Okay, my name is Adam Fisher, and I'm speaking just as a private citizen, but also on behalf of the Access Fund, which is a nonprofit that supports the interests of climbers and stewardship of the climbing environment. And I wanted to raise the concern about the business plan, which is that hasn't really been discussed, which is that the as I read it, the business plan is approving a fee for the Calico Basin area on the basis of that fee being authorized by the original business plan. But the issue is that that original business plan only authorizes fees for the Calico Basin site, which when you read the descriptions in that original business plan is a very small area surrounding the Red Spring picnic area that has amenities like the parking lot, trash cans, etc., all these things that are required by FLURIA if you're going to charge fees. However, if you compare that up, this area that was originally approved for fees with the area that's now being proposed as the Calico Basin area, the entirety of Calico Basin would now be subject to a fee because the gate that charges this fee would be at the only access point. And so the area that's going to be subject to a fee now is actually orders of magnitude. I mean, it's I think something like 80 times bigger. I mean, it's significantly bigger than the original area that was really approved for these fees. And so that issue has really been glossed over, I feel. And it's concerning because there are pretty specific requirements for what amenities must be available, even in a non-national conservation area, if fees are going to be charged. Generally, it's not acceptable to charge fees for general access or for roadside parking or for other things like that if there aren't other amenities. And much of the use in Calico Basin, especially the use of rock climbers, is happening at these off times and is happening in these less developed areas of Calico Basin. So Access Fund will submit comments that explain this with exhibits and stuff, but I want to raise those issues. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you, Adam.
And Samuel, we are queued out of new Zoom commenters right now, correct?
That's correct. Everybody who has their hand up currently has already spoken.
If we could start in the room and go back to Zoom again, if you feel comfortable with that.
Sure. Okay. So do we have any more public comments? Okay, not.
So we have none, no further comments in the room. So if you guys wanted to go in order of folks that already commented that raised their hands, Samuel, you can please leave that.
Okay, John, you have the floor again.
Okay, thank you. It is true that Calico Basin has seen increased visitor impacts, but it's quite stark how little the area seems to be patrolled by BLM law enforcement. I've been hiking and climbing there for years, and I have never, not even once, seen a ranger on the trail. As a result, local organizations such as the Southern Nevada Climbers Coalition have had to hold public service events in conjunction with the BLM and other organizations to clean graffiti that could have otherwise been prevented with more law enforcement presence. The plan is not an example of adaptive management. The Calico Basin RAMP changes should be made more incrementally and deliberatively. The recreationalists, we use Calico for hiking and climbing. It's the closest to Las Vegas, easiest to access. Now the bicyclists, they have successfully gotten their paved bike path from the urban area straight into Calico Basin on its way to the visitor center, the Red Rock Legacy Trail. That will have a tremendous negative impact on the area. And as a result of this $34 million decision, tapping Southern Nevada Public Land Management Act money, it's going to create a circus style atmosphere in the area, and the BLM will be held directly responsible for increasing visitation to Calico Basin, thus unfairly justifying the construction of these toll booths, locking out the local hiking and climbing population. Why does not the BLM request millions more in money from this same source to provide for the type of enhancements that they want to provide in Calico Basin without building a toll booth, blocking off the lands from taxpayers?
Okay, thank you, John. Up next is Thomas.
Yes, hello?
Yep, we can hear you. Go ahead.
Thank you. A couple more ideas to the general budget that you've heard from me before. Generally, the executive summary, what has been presented to the public, seems to be quite misleading in the way it shows ideas. It showed that there were 7 items the BLM wants to fund. 6 of them were in the tens of thousands of dollars. 1 was illegal to fund from this money, and 1 was 34 million. When the public inquired, the BLM said that out of the paved path for 34 million, actually very little money is going into it. So I would like this board to investigate where the money is going and to have some sort of a material that can actually be trusted, because as it is, the material that is before you cannot, because it shows a paved path with 34 million, and this money is either not coming from this bucket or is not coming at all. Furthermore, the plan should probably be more short-term. This board or council should probably investigate it more frequently, and it cannot delegate the authority to determine the fee amount onto a private defense contractor. It has to make a determination of a numbered amount. Thank you.
Thank you, Thomas. Peter, you're up next.
Okay, yeah, just a couple of things I wanted to reinforce. One thing that never got mentioned in terms of public comment was a petition came up that got more than 2,500 signatures from Las Vegas opposing this. And that's a quite significant amount for a city like this. So I think that we're not communicating how strong the opposition is to particularly the idea of blocking off Calico. There's a lot of people in Las Vegas who are very upset about it. The second thing I'd like to do is pound on the legacy trail. It's 34 million or 38 million, but it's eventually projected to be 100 million. And what I think is most distressing about that is it's going to benefit largely rich cyclists. It's not a cycle track for people who are out for a few miles stroll. It's a very long cycle track. So what we're doing is we're creating an HOA for a few very rich residents in Calico. We're creating a cycle track for some quite wealthy cyclists, and yet we're locking out the lower income and the less able residents from Calico who currently use it as a free resource. So to me, it's just morally incomprehensible that we'll do this. And the third thing I just wanted to do, because I was hurrying so much last time, I'm trying to make that 2 minutes, but the numbers I got from the BLM for income were 5.3 million in 2019, 3.9 million in 2020, and 3.6 million in 2021. So that shows a 30% drop from before to after the introduction of the reservation system, which again suggests that this idea of adding complexity to the task of entering these places actually reduces the number of people coming. And as I say, I'm a behavioral scientist. Going from free to 20-something dollars will devastate the numbers. So the projected income from Calico is almost certainly way off, and it's going to be nothing like the BLM is expecting. So again, thank you for the second opportunity to comment.
Okay, thank you, Peter. So we've gone through everybody at least twice that's wanted to comment so far. Do we want to go and check the room again, or do we want to go for a third round?
Well, I think we've already checked the room. So let's go for a third round.
Okay, John, you are free to talk.
Thank you very much. I just want to make note that Mr. Travers, who conducted the Red Rock business plan presentation, he's been pushing this management plan and the business plan that is hindering public access in Calico Basin with the toll booth and the reservation system. In addition to being a BLM employee, he's on the Trails Committee with Save Red Rock, and they're well known locally as merely being an advocacy group for the owners of local bicycle shop businesses and bicyclist groups. Save Red Rock board members, they're also notable for proposing to build toll booths in the future that will control access to a 7-mile portion of Nevada State Highway 159, a road which will end up seeing increased public usage if Calico Basin falls to usage fees and controls. I'm aware of at least one ethics complaint made with the Department of Interior regarding the way in which this management plan has been manipulated through the public commenting process. The approval process of the Calico Basin Recreation Management Plan, which is part of the Red Rock business plan, it has reduced public confidence in the BLM, and it has given rise to an appearance of the loss of integrity, impartiality, and it serves, it seems like it serves the limited interest of adjacent landowners and well-connected business owners. The last thing I want to say is that I noticed that you mentioned that you're still seeking additional members for your RAC. And I want to point out that Mr. Thomas Kotab has repeatedly applied for membership, and that seems to be going nowhere. It seems like he's been denied. I encourage you to consider him for your membership. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, up next is Adam. Adam, are you able to talk?
I am. Yeah, thank you. I just want to follow up on my earlier comment, and this was about the expansion of the fee area. And it actually gets kind of technical. It's sort of interesting, but this statute Florea, which is controlling how where and how the government can charge fees for recreational areas, it makes pretty clear distinctions between different types of fees and different types of fee areas and what is required for different things. And so the more specific issue is that previously what's been approved is the Red Spring fee site. And that is, fees could have been charged for that Red Spring picnic area. The BLM chose not to maintain free access to the area. That's all fine. But now the language in the Recreation Area Management Plan and the business plan are referring to the Calico Basin core fee area. And that difference between a fee site, the Red Spring fee site, and a fee area, the Calico Basin fee area, is not actually just a switching of the name. Like that's kind of, I think, how it maybe is being presented. But in fact, they're technical terms, and a fee area has different requirements for its creation because it's actually expanding the area where the fees are even authorized to be charged in the first place. And so
15 seconds. Apologize, my alarm broke.
okay, no worries. And anyhow, so that requires publication of notice in the Federal Register and some other requirements about what you need to do if you're going to create a new fee area. And those things weren't done in this case. So I just am not sure that it's proper to approve this, with those types of concerns.
Thank you. Up next is Thomas.
I will probably second or continue what has been discussed in the previous comment. I believe much of the conduct that is being proposed to this council is in fact illegal. It violates the plain text of the Federal Lands Recreation Enhancement Act. And there are requirements on what you can charge fees for. For instance, as you wanted to charge fees for First Creek and other undeveloped areas, that is not possible in the first place, because in order to charge fees, you need certain amenities at the site, and you do not have those. The National Conservation Area, unlike a national park, cannot charge an entrance fee, and it is what it is doing at this point. So probably the entire fee structure should be rethought, and it is rather sad that the BLM is bringing it up and bringing attention to its illegal conduct in this way, because it will likely attract another lawsuit that will likely result in a huge problem, which nobody here wishes. Already the past lawsuit has created $3 million, which will probably have to be returned now. And where are we going to find those? So I would ask this board to return this proposal to the BLM for much further study, for a legal analysis of what it can do and how it is going to repair the issue that it has created, and for a more detailed accounting of how the money is to be spent. Thank you.
Thank you.
Up next is Peter.
Thank you, and hello again. I can slow the pace a little bit this time because I'm not racing the clock. It's lovely. So first of all, I'd like to just reinforce what's been said about the disproportionate influence of the Save Red Rock group and its inside track and connections with the BLM. I don't know what's legal, I don't know what's allowed, but I do know that a lot of people feel very uncomfortable with the way that appears, and it looks bad. So I think there's a desperate need for more transparency around that relationship, and for people who have multiple hats to be very clear about it. The second thing I'd like to say, it's about access, and that is one of the other benefits of Calico Basin is it's very close to Las Vegas, and a lot of hikers and a lot of climbers use it to get recreation during the summer, but early in the morning and late in the evening when it starts to cool down. It's somewhere where you can quickly pop up, grab a half hour or an hour's hike, and all the health benefits that come with that. And having a locked up system or a reservations, and believe me, there's no one up there when you do that. There's, when I say a lot, there's maybe 10 people, 20 people, 30 people at most, and that's not much in an area that big. So this system is going to prevent people from getting much needed recreation. And I think that's just wrong. I mean, if nothing else, make it available in the early mornings and evenings. Yeah, I think that's probably enough for now. I've spoken enough. Oh yeah, I will say one other thing as well. If you want someone on the committee who's, I'm a published behavioral scientist, applied psychologist, and retail consumer psychologist. If you want someone to help with this stuff, because we don't seem to be doing a very good job of it at the moment, I'd happily help you out and I will do it for free. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, we've cleared the board on my end.
Okay, and I think we're just about used up our time allotted for public comment, so I'll bring it back to the committee for discussion. Yes, ma'am.
Can I ask for clarification? So for number 5, the add an expanded amenity fee for the Calico.
Which page?
Sorry, I'm sorry. So it's the proposed change, number 5. So I'm looking at the executive summary. And so I'm just trying to get clarification for what exactly is being proposed. So add an expanded amenity fee for the Calico Basin core area equal to the associated recreation.gov reservation service fee. So is the ask to add on a $2 fee, or is the ask to build a fee booth and charge the $20 fee and then add $2 onto that?
Yeah, no, the ask is, so in 2018, we brought fees to the Calico Basin area. What we're asking for today is that we expand that fee to increase that fee to include the $2 or $3 reservation fee.
So
when it's applicable.
So is it the same exact area, or are we making the area that the fee applies to bigger?
So and then the fourth item, or what's listed as number 3 on the slide, is modify the existing name. When we refer to Calico Basin, we refer to it as the Calico Basin area, the Red Spring area, or the Red Spring Boardwalk. And so we're clarifying that to make it so that it's consistent with the recreation area management plan, and calling it the Calico Basin core fee area.
Okay, so the gentleman that was talking about that before, we were just paying for use around Red Spring. So we're saying that by changing this name, now the name is going to apply for everything from the highway, basically, where there's going to be a fee station in. So by changing the name, then that's where the fee starts. And then the next bullet or the next request is that we then add on the fee on the amenity fee onto that.
So so in 2018, we expanded our fee use area. Well, Red Rock Canyon is the fee use area. Under Floria, where we have national conservation areas are called fee use areas, not sites. So in 2018, we said Red Spring / Calico Basin, a different name. We said we were going to call this area another area. That same fee, if you came into Red Spring or Calico Basin area, you could use that receipt and you would get access to the scenic drive area. So it's the same across. You're not paying an additional fee. You just have a different area where you're having to pay an amenity fee.
Yeah, the fee area was expanded from the scenic drive to Calico Basin.
Okay.
So so we're just asking in this executive summary for to clean up the name to coincide with other references of the area. And recently there was a Calico Basin Recreation Area Management Plan that specifically gave that area, the whole area, a name and called it the Calico Basin core area.
Yeah.
Core area. So we wanted them to match.
Yeah.
So I understand the statement that was made that before we called it the Red Spring area. There was no map when we had the Red Spring area. we're still saying we're managing this area to protect the resources. And that's what we're focused on. The importance is to remember that there is no additional fee. It's still the same. It's still giving us the ability to manage that area, regardless of if there was a change with or there's not a change in the area as far as the map, because we didn't have a map the first time, but we're just cleaning that area up as far as the name goes. So we just want to call it the to match the other area.
So somebody might think that before they weren't paying a fee.
Right.
But there could have been there was the intention that area could be a fee charged for it, but it just hadn't been implemented essentially because there was no way of having a fee.
Right, so that area has a road leading out to Red Springs, so no matter what, it was still considered that same area, which is called something else, no matter what. That was the area that we were focusing on, that had amenities. It has parking areas, that's still the same as it did back in 2018. Had restrooms, the same. It's still the same appearance as it looks like now, with the exception of more people. This is what we're dealing with now. So, there's confusion about, and there's discussions about a gate and restrictions. We're not talking about that right now. Right now, we're talking about a name change, and the fee has already been approved in 2018. And so we're just looking to change the name.
So let me ask you a question. Last time I was at Red Springs, Calico Basin area, whatever you want to call it, there was no fee station in place. And so when would a fee station be put there?
So we, back in 2018, the fees got, we asked to call that area a fee area. Fast forward to 2022, we developed a Calico Basin Recreation Area Management Plan that provided site direction for how we're going to manage the resources and recreation in the Calico Basin area. In that plan, we stated there, it's not feasible to try to put a fee booth in there. And we're talking about thousands of dollars that is going to come into from fees to support the Calico Basin area a week. And we can't manage that through a fee booth collection. We don't have any way to manage compliance for that. It has to be done where there's a touch point with a fee booth to manage fee collection. And so that plan said, we're going to manage through a fee booth type of operation. That's the reference of this gated community is that we're going to have a touch point to collect fees so that every visitor coming in will go through the fee.
Right, so you don't have that touch point right now.
We're 3 to 5 years from even having a fee booth in that area where we're going to begin to collect fees.
Okay, so almost all of the opposition we've heard about here has all been about the Calico Basin area. And we're talking about fees which can't actually be implemented until you have that in place, which is, you just said 3 to 5 years away.
Correct.
So it sort of seems like we're jumping the gun here on the Calico Basin part of this, because no matter what we approve, you're not going to be able to collect it within
that's
for 3 to 5 years. One of the things that was just brought up here was the Legacy Trail of 40 miles long. And at a previous meeting I was at, there was a statement that the Legacy Trail would mostly be within the right of way of State Route 159. You can't get 40 miles out of that. So what's the deal with the Legacy Trail? Will that actually go through Calico Basin, or would it be right along Highway 159?
It rides the right of way of 159 until, and then it cuts into the NCA before Calico Basin. I don't have the I mean, we're still working on the design, and the design is still, the environmental analysis hasn't been completed, but where we're at with the design, about halfway between Summerlin and the entrance to the scenic drive, it does cut into the NCA cross over Calico Basin Road because of some very large drainages that we have to cross. And it made the most sense to be able to cross those drainages in these points that provided the best access. And then the Legacy Trail will connect into Calico Basin Road right before, or right at the Jeans Trail access, cross Calico Basin Road and head towards the scenic drive. And it goes back up towards.
So would the Legacy Trail be closer to Calico Basin or closer to Red Spring than the fee station, or would that be outside of where the fee station would be?
So the Legacy Trail will provide free access into Calico Basin. So folks can jump on the Legacy Trail in Summerlin and go into the Jeans Trail area and cut across and work their way towards the scenic drive.
Okay, this is getting more complicated.
It's a very complicated area.
Any other questions from?
Yeah, I have two. First, are there other providers, or have you looked into other providers for the fee collection? As I understand what you're saying, for the federal government to develop this system could be very expensive, but have you looked at other providers other than the one that you're currently advocating for today?
So the contract is done, it's done through the Department of Agriculture, and the Forest Service oversees the contract. And it's done at the Department of Agriculture, Department of Interior level, where the management of that contract is. So we don't get any say on the contractors. We haven't done any work. We're mandated by the BLM to use recreation.gov to provide that service.
Okay.
We didn't get the luxury to shop.
Right, okay. Second, you mentioned just previously about the NCA is a fee area. So, because I've heard saying they can't collect fees, so would you please clarify that?
So, so FLORIA states that national conservation areas does not charge entrance fees. That's for national parks. We charge standard or expanded amenity fees. Standard amenity fees are for coming into areas, or
How is that different than an entry fee?
they don't call it an entry fee.
Semantics?
I guess. And expanded fees are for like campgrounds, and so we have the expanded amenities fee for our campgrounds. So we use fee use areas for national conservation areas. So that's what we are. The whole area, the national conservation area, is the fee use area. So that's why we just expanded the scenic drive, the fee use area. This is the area where we have the most visitation, was the scenic drive. And that's, whenever the fees were first established, that's the area that was the busiest. Now, in 2018, we had the Red Spring area / Calico Basin that became busy. There could be another area later on that we could charge fees as well. And they could probably use that same receipt to also go into these other areas as well. But Red Rock Canyon is the fee area. So we use the same process under Korea to use this process.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
What is the time frame for the Legacy Trail?
It's a very long time frame. So it's divided.
Years, decades, centuries?
It's divided up into 5 phases. Segment 1, which is Summerlin to the entrance to the scenic drive, is planned to go to construction summer 2023. The phase to follow, which will probably happen around summer of 2024, will be the opposite side of State Route 159 from South Las Vegas all the way to Blue Diamond. And then the BLM has just secured funding in round 18 SNPLMA, where we got 35 million to do all the planning and design for the entire middle section. It's constructing part of that. We're looking at 2026, 27 for construction of that. And then likely 2028 for phase 4, which would complete all construction. And that's, I mean, that's just a guess on all phases at this point.
So you said that there'd be no fee for use of the legacy trail, is that correct?
That is correct.
So bicyclists getting on that as soon as the first phase is done, would basically be able to access the scenic loop via the legacy trail. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, so if he's foolish enough to go out and come up Highway 159 and get onto the scenic loop, he'll be paying $8 starting next year. But if he just takes the other trail, no fee. Somehow that doesn't seem to make a lot of sense.
I didn't understand where it takes.
So if you come through the fee station on a bicycle right now to access the scenic loop.
Correct.
Starting in 2023, you'll be paying $8. If you take the legacy trail up there, which sometime 23 or 24 will be available, you intersect the scenic loop, no fee. You're past the fee station, right?
No, so the legacy trail is going to come in right at the entrance of the scenic drive. There's another project that's in design right now, and actually we're wrapping up the environmental analysis for it. It's completely redesigning and reconstructing the entrance to Red Rock Canyon. It's expanding it from 3 lanes to 4 lanes, and then adding a half-lane bicycle lane. Every one of those lanes will have its own feed booth associated with it. There'll be a bicycle feed booth and 4 vehicle feed booths. And so all that project is tied into the legacy trail, where there's a lane specifically made for bicycle traffic that'll leave the legacy trail, take you through the feed booth, around the visitor center, or the option to hop on the scenic drive. And for those even crazier to go all the way around the scenic drive, they can do that. And then it routes back to the exit of the feed booth, cuts across and ties back into the legacy trail. Giving people an option to not go on the scenic drive, but to go through the visitor center area, wrap back around to the exit, and safely get back onto the legacy trail to return back.
So the legacy trail will deviate from 159 right there by Calico Basin to avoid some washes or natural problems, and then come back to the right of way, 159 right of way at the fee station. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. I think that needs to be better explained to the public. I think a lot of people may be confused about where things go. I know I've been a bit confused by it. It's not very clear. And I think that your messaging here could be explained so that the public really understands, because when I read this idea, I think it says something pretty clear, but you say, no, it doesn't say that at all. It's different. So I think the messaging needs to be clear so the public really does understand what's going on. And some of the public comment here, I think, indicated maybe a lack of understanding of how fees are collected and where the money goes and how much is collected. And certainly about the drop off in fee collections and visitor numbers during the pandemic didn't seem to take the pandemic into effect. I think you would agree that the pandemic had an effect on your fee collection.
I did. We closed the scenic drive, our only fee collection area, for 3 months.
Right, and I'm not sure that everybody understood that the pandemic had a big effect on your fee collections. And you need to really explain that to people so that they understand it. So.
I have one last question. Do you know how frequently recreation.gov changes their service fees? And would it be prudent to add on something to that says that the service fees would be adjusted in the future to stay in step with recreation.org's service fees so that you don't have to redo the business plan every time the website updates theirs?
Yeah, it's my understanding that they don't adjust the fees until they go into a new contract with all agencies.
How often is that?
I believe it's 10 years. I'm almost positive it's 10 years.
Okay, that might just be something to look into, because like if it expires in 2 years and there's not even gonna be a fee boost for Calico Basin in there, then, or Calico core fee area, but we don't want to redo this in a year if this is gonna expire in 2023.
Yeah.
Any other comments here? Online, Robert, do you have any comments? Or do we want to move forward on your motion?
I'd like to move forward on the motion.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, motion and a second. Is there any discussion at this point?
Can we clarify that the motion included support for all 5 of the points?
Yes, my motion was to approve as presented.
Thank you.
I would just, in terms of discussion, it seems like there's a lot of concern about Calico Basin at this point in time. Potentially there's a long comment letter, an objection, if you will, from the Access Fund about that. And you're talking about a fee collection booth being 3 to 5 years out. It's not going to be there, correct?
Correct.
So whether we approve fees for Calico Basin or not is kind of irrelevant in the near term for the next 3 to 5 years, because you will not have the ability to collect it. Is that a fair statement?
That is correct.
So then I would like to offer a friendly amendment to the motion.
Don't we have a motion and a second to that?
We had a second to the, he made a motion. And we had a second.
I'm just wondering if with Robert's rules, do we have to vote on that motion that's already been seconded?
Or unless the second
Agrees to?
agrees to withdraw in a second.
If Robert agrees with the friendly amendment, then we can vote on that and go forward.
Yeah, so I think I can make a friendly amendment, and if he agrees, then we can proceed. If he doesn't agree, my amendment dies. So my friendly amendment would be that we would approve the fees as stated with the exception of their applicability to the Calico Basin area until such time as that issue is resolved and or a fee station is in place, whichever comes first.
I don't agree with that. My feelings are is we give them ability to charge a fee when they can. And we put this to rest today.
And can I get clarification? Because I think we already 3 years ago, whenever, approved the fee.
Correct.
This is really just including that recreation.gov fee.
Correct.
So we already talked about the fee previously. It's just that additional piece. So that it's applicable there too.
But it's changing the air. It's clarifying the area. It's clarifying so that everybody understands on the area that it applies for.
Correct.
Okay, so it looks like the motion then is to approve the fees as proposed, which would apply to the Red Rock Scenic Loop and to the Calico Basin area. Although the Calico Basin area does not have the ability to collect the fees at the present time and will not for some substantial time in the future. Is that everybody's understanding of what the motion is?
I think it's including all five, the campground.
And the campground, excuse me, yes, campground.
There is that one page in your slide that has the 4 requests.
Five requests.
Or 5 requests.
It's 4.
Well, this
Right there.
executive summary that we have has 5.
Yeah.
The 5th on the executive summary, it says that we're going to increase the fees, but it doesn't label. It was a copy paste error. It didn't label Calico Basin, the campground, or Scenic Drive.
It says that for Calico Basin core area.
Yeah, so
It says expanded amenity fee area for the Calico Basin core area equal to the associated recreation of service fee.
correct. Yeah, so it's
that's
the
fine.
Calico Basin fee. It's the Calico Basin core fee area, the Red Rock Canyon campground, and the Red Rock Canyon Scenic Drive are the 3 areas that we're asking for that amendment to the fee.
And so you have 5.
I think it's number 3 on our executive summary.
Is it a duplicate?
Yeah, it's
The
a-
number
yeah.
3 says add an expanded amenity fee for RRCNA equal to the associated recreational.gov service fee.
Yeah, it doesn't
So
say.
it's number,
Yeah, it
yeah,
doesn't-
so it
that one
doesn't
doesn't
say
It doesn't-
scenic drive.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's number 3 on the executive summary that's in there.
Yes.
Okay, that's.
So it's this. That's why I asked to bring it up.
Thank you. Okay, so the motion is to vote on 4 things, which is on that slide, or if the executive summary we have number 1, 2, 4, and 5.
Okay. So I think, again, the way it's written in messaging needs to be improved so people can really understand what you're doing here. But I
I
think
strongly agree with that.
I would say it's the last 4 pages of this. It's not applicable to the service fees.
So there's a motion.
So we have a motion and a second. A discussion, time to call a question. All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion passes. Okay, any other discussion about next meetings, about anything? If not, yes.
I would like the Mojave rack and preferably all of the racks to consider reviewing and potentially updating the resource, the standards and guides that were.
Standards and guides for land health,
Yeah. We've been, how many years now?
probably 20 years.
And I think science has advanced considerably since that was done. And just my personal reading of it, I can see some places where it would be advantageous to take a look at it. It will be more than one meeting, I guarantee you that.
A request of the designated federal official here would be that we actually run that up the line to the state office, and really there should be a subcommittee of the 2 racks getting together to really review those standards and guidelines. Land health. That would be fair
I'm
for
agreeable to that.
Southern Moso rack to do it for the whole state. So.
Well, yeah, but in its infinite wisdom now, we have 3 northern counties that are in the Mojave. So our ecological sites are all over the board. So, you know, that in itself begs the question to review the standards and guides.
I was going to ask, so if this Mojave one now covers the Ely and the.
Definitely covers Ely.
Yes.
Yeah.
It always
So,
has been.
Ely, Eureka.
so, and because before there was the Great Basin,
So
You had the north,
so there was
northeast.
the Mojave-Southern Great Basin rack, that's this rack. We covered this whole southern part of the state. The dividing line was essentially Highway 6.
Yeah.
So we got most of the Ely district.
And then, and so is that the same?
Yeah, so now it's
No,
all of the
now it's
Southern
all-
Nevada district, all of the Ely district, all of the Battle Mountain district.
Okay.
I still think it's very important we take a look at this.
I completely agree.
I agree.
I just didn't know what the area was.
Well, and ultimately, I think if this is going to work, I'd say the other racks have to take a look. We should consider asking the other racks to take a look at them as well. Well, the Sierra,
There's only one.
There's only
Oh,
one.
the
okay.
Sierra,
They got
which
rid of
covers
the-
all of
the
northern
whole-
Nevada.
whole northern
Okay.
part's one
So-
rack.
But so I think we should have them look at theirs as well, and then we meet together and iron it out.
So maybe there's an opportunity to take a look at a work plan, but, and then collaborate with the other app on some of those things.
I can take it forward to our state range person to consider the SNGs being reviewed.
And I've talked to both Catherine and Patty.
Okay, well, I'll talk to their boss.
Yeah, I think that's.
Okay.
I think it's a
worthwhile
super
suggestion.
idea.
So we lose our quorum again later this month. So we've had our first round of nominations and we had a couple nominees. We're gonna come, we're gonna open another round of nominations. Our hope is that we'll have full appointment and we can start meeting again. The goal of that would be probably in November-ish, so to try to start before we pop into the holiday season. So we'll be in touch with that, and then as we get closer, our next meeting will definitely be longer and have a lot more wiggle room for conversation and discussions. This one was a lot tighter. I targeted for a variety of reasons, but we understand that it came at a cost of connection that we don't want to have happen, so we're gonna rectify that at the next meeting.
Is there specific fields that you're looking for people for?
There will be, yeah, and so we'll send out the news release, and so we'll make sure that you guys are on all of that and have direct conversations with you. There's a variety in each of the categories.
Right, so there's the 3 categories and under each category there's a different
Yeah.
interest.
Yeah, just, that would be super helpful because then we can try and send it out to people. Now.
Great. We're hoping for a quorum.
I just
Yeah,
had
we're
a
gonna
question
get what's done,
on,
we never have a quorum.
on your, what were you wanting? So on this, right? You were wanting changes?
Yes, to review and potentially update the standards and guides.
And when was the last time it was updated?
20 years ago, when
Probably when it came out.
Yeah.
Babbitt initiated them.
Yeah.
Okay, if nothing else, I guess we're ready for a motion for adjournment.
Move to adjourn.
A second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Done.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
guys.
you.